Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Welcome to Sunday Night Live. We've got an exciting show tonight. We've got a special guest, Andre Floyd from Kaleidescape. We're going to be hearing from him and talking about Kaleidescape. Also, we'll be answering your questions. So if you have specific questions regarding Kaleidescape, go ahead and drop those in the chat. We'll star those, and then we'll get Andre to answer those kind of after we're finished. And then we got a cool video we'll be showing you about Kaleidescape. And then once we're all said and done, kind of talking about the exciting updates that Kaleidescape has, we'll jump over to just answering your home theater questions. So definitely you can drop those in the chat as well. As always, we got Ryan and Jonathan. Fellas, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing well.
Still recovering
Andre, how you
after
doing?
my 2 a.m. comeback from John Wick.
Oh, yeah. So you went and saw it real late, so at midnight.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan dragged me out, kicking and screaming.
Right. I saw it too, so it was probably not my favorite, but
Andre, have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet.
I mean, it was great. The action's crazy. It's over the top. It's insane, but definitely way unrealistic. And but
don't ruin it for people.
I didn't say nothing. I'm just saying it's unrealistic.
Compared to
I
the
agree
other
with
one.
you fully, Michael.
Yeah.
There was kind of a split decision on our group. We had went with about 6 guys, and about half of them really seemed to like it, and I kept my mouth closed.
Yeah,
because I wasn't a big
like I said, it was a fun movie, and there was a couple of scenes that were really, really done well, and I really enjoyed those. They went kind of a different direction cinematography wise, and I went, "Oh, that's cool." So definitely like that, but no spoilers. Absolutely, I wouldn't do that to you guys. But definitely, it's worth seeing. I think it's going to have some incredible demo material for sure. There's a couple in there that's like, heck yeah. Even from the very beginning of the movie, it has some really, really cool intro stuff. So I think you'll enjoy the film. I just don't think that it was my favorite just because it's 3 hours of just shoot them. Like, I don't think you could have counted the amount of bullets that were expelled between the whole entire movie. So, but definitely, man, it was cool. Well, man, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. I'm just going to say hi to some folks in the chat real quick. We got Bruce, Slick, Leadership Push. Good to see you. SRW 1000. I know he's already got some questions for Andre. Mark's in the house. Good to see you. Finster, all the way down. Bunch of folks, man. Derek, Megatron's here. Chuck. Awesome, man. Good to see you guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. First thing I'd love to do is, Andre, kind of tell us who you are and what do you do? Like, what's your role at Kaleidescape before we dive into your products?
All right. I am the Director of Technical Support. That's my official title. I also manage our trade show presences, and I started off here in marketing, and just over the past couple of years, pandemics and things, that we're a small company, and so we do what we need to do. Everybody pitches in to make things happen. They keep things going forward. So prior to Kaleidescape, I'm coming up on my 4-year anniversary. Prior to that, I was at Sony for 28 years. Most of that was on the professional side. In the last 6 years, I was running the projector business for home theater. And so that's where I sort of moved into the consumer realm and the custom install realm. And then from there, I was invited to join Kaleidescape, and it's been great since.
Man, that's super cool. You said almost 30 years with Sony?
That's wild.
Yeah.
Man.
That's fantastic, man. Super, super cool. So Mark's been around the block. He knows his stuff. We're super excited to have you here tonight and to talk about really some exciting things regarding Kaleidescape. So if it's cool with you, I'm going to go ahead and show your promo video. And
yeah, that'd be great.
And then we'll jump right into kind of what new things are happening with Kaleidescape, some really exciting stuff there. And then, as always, like I said, guys, if you got questions regarding Kaleidescape, we'll hit those first. That way we can kind of address those, and then we'll come to your home theater questions at the end of the show after Andre says, "See you guys," because we don't. Sometimes our videos go pretty long, so we don't want to hold him all night. So let's go ahead and jump into that promo video.
It is the movie platform used by Hollywood's elite. Kaleidescape elevates every component of your media system. Kaleidescape's lossless audio makes your processor, amplifiers, and speakers sound the way the director intended. The dialogue is clearer, and every subtle sound and rumble draws you deeper into the story. Kaleidescape's reference quality video makes your projector or TV look pixel perfect without compression artifacts. Kaleidescape's metadata automatically controls screen masking, room lighting, and seating to create ambiance. There are over 14,000 titles available on Kaleidescape's platform, including movies, TV series, and concerts. Kaleidescape movies are downloaded, not streamed, so there is never buffering or degradation. Kaleidescape delivers the ultimate entertainment experience.
Oh yeah, man. So Andre, welcome again to the show. We're excited to have Kaleidescape, and we're excited to have you at M-Wave this year. So we're doing an event for those of you in the chat. If you haven't heard about it, Midwest AV Experience. It's going to be an incredible experience, about 3 days. Just having some really awesome home theater demos, some different comparisons. And of course, we're going to have Kaleidescape there on the big screen. So we're excited about that. So Andre, maybe before we dive into the new things that are happening with Kaleidescape, I know there's some folks maybe in our chat that really doesn't know what Kaleidescape is. So kind of give us just an overview of what is Kaleidescape.
All right. So hopefully the video gave most people an idea what it is. Something we just put together, and because everybody asks that question, and it's not always the easiest question to answer.
Sure.
But Kaleidescape is a movie platform. It's the basis, the most simplest description, but it's a way to get high quality movies in your home to be able to watch on a big screen. And to do that, you need to have some proprietary hardware. So that's why it seems like you're buying Kaleidescape system, but that's just the stuff that helps you to get to the movies. And it provides the super high video quality and lossless audio, as well as the interface, which is the other thing that's is really kind of the basis of Kaleidescape's popularity. Mm-hmm. The ability to find movies and to discover movies that you maybe didn't know about, either things that are in our store, but also just to find movies in your own collection once it gets to be pretty big.
Sure. So I've had the opportunity, Ryan, I know you've got Kaleidescape. Mm-hmm. We've had Kaleidescape at our last year's M-Wave. I've done home theater tours on my channel, and they've got Kaleidescape. And honestly, I'm drooling because I'm looking at this amazing platform, but it's one of those things, I'm not there budget wise. It's definitely a pretty high end product. But I know I saw one guy where he was like, man, I'm hoping after this live stream, I can just say, man, just go for it. I'm just buying the system. But yeah, so there's some exciting things that are happening within the Kaleidescape platform. So let's go ahead and dive into that. What is the first thing that we were going to talk about tonight?
So the main thing that people are really excited about, we just introduced a new version of software, 10.14, for anybody who hasn't looked it up in the last couple of weeks. And it came out the end of last month. And the biggest thing in there that everyone's talking about is the ability for now anyone basically to be able to catalog disc movies onto their system at home with a off-the-shelf piece of hardware. Prior to this, we would loan out our Alto systems, and you would add those into your system, and you would put it on your movie account, and then you'd feed your discs in to catalog them, and then you'd have to send it away. But now what we've done is we've actually set up the software so that you can purchase a BD-ROM player. And so this is a computer accessory, just to make sure that people don't get confused. You're not taking an Oppo player and plugging it into your Kaleidescape player. It's actually much simpler than that. Just a computer accessory BD-ROM drive with the only two main requirements are that it's HDMI 2.0 or 3.0, and that it has its own external power supply, because we don't supply power over the service port on the Strato players. So you're able to plug that player into that device into your player, and then take discs that you own, put them into that player, and in a couple of seconds, it'll recognize the disc, and it will make note that you own that disc, And so what it's really doing is it's saying you own the license for that movie on the disc format.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, then it allows us to give you pricing on that movie through our disc to digital program, which is discounted. And so once you have something cataloged, you'll see a different price with a discount in it in your store site.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you can purchase that. Once you've cataloged it, you can, it's there indefinitely. And whenever you're ready to purchase it, you can purchase it. Sometimes it's worth waiting until the movies go on special, because as you know, we run promotions all the time. So, if it's your Star Wars discs, that sometime I bet there's probably a good chance that on May the 4th that there might be another.
There was last year.
Yeah, nice.
There has been, I think, the last 2 years. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think that's kind of likely. And so,
sure.
So you can even get a discount off that discounted price at that point.
Now, with the Alto player, historically, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were only able to feed in Blu-ray discs. You weren't able to do 4K UHD. Has that changed?
So you can do DVDs or Blu-ray discs, but we can't do UHD Blu-ray discs. And I'll try to simplify the reason for that. But basically, if you maybe it won't be simple.
But that's okay.
It's okay.
Right. But so the whole point of disc to digital was for our large customer base of people who started with Premiere systems that are disc-based systems, who had imported their disc collection, to help them to migrate to a Strato system where everything is purchased from the store and downloaded into that system. We set up this disc to digital program so we could say, all right, you own all these movie licenses that you've imported from your discs, and so we're going to give you a discount on purchasing the movies and downloading them into the Strato system. So that was the point of that. But the Premiere system only goes up to HD. So we've never created a catalog, if you will, of 4K versions of movies. So the issue is if you put a 4K disc in, we don't have that in our disc catalog that we can reference to be able to give a discount off of that particular title.
Is there any plans for that?
There is not a plan.
Okay.
So basically, this would be for DVDs and Blu-rays at this point.
Correct. And so for the most part, 4K UHD Blu-ray discs come with a Blu-ray version, a BD version of the disc that you can put in there and catalog to show you on the license. I know that the thing that people, I guess, assume is if they had a 4K disc that it would be cost less than going from a Blu-ray version up to the 4K download version. But unfortunately, that's just not something that's going to be part of this world.
Now, who sets the price for that conversion to happen? Like if I were to scan X, Y, or Z Blu-ray film, who sets the pricing for that? Because I think there's a lot of confusion about who sets the pricing for these types of movies during not only sales, but during this conversion process.
That's a great question. And all the movie prices are set by the studios. So Kaleidescape is a movie reseller. We're like Best Buy. We buy movies. We get movies from the studios and we resell them, and then give pay a cost back to the studio. And so they set all the pricing of their movies. So all of the promotional pricing is set by them, and the disc to digital pricing set by them as well. And that's why you probably notice there are a couple of studios that their movies, the disc to digital discount is not very big. And that's because that discount is really all provided out of Kaleidescape, that those studios don't give a disc to digital discount. And so we're just trying to give some sort of discount to our customers for being part of that program and owning the movie.
Sure.
Okay.
Look over here. All right. So I know we've already got some questions in the chat. We can either jump into that, or we can even go into, you also mentioned that there's a new update. Is that different than what we're talking about here?
That was
part of that.
That was part of the 10.14 update.
Okay.
So something I think that a lot of people would want to know is what sets Kaleidescape apart from a lot of the other sources that are available, really any other source that's available. Like what makes Kaleidescape special?
So Kaleidescape, the most important thing compared to other sources that you're going to get is going to be the quality of the video and the audio that you get. And there's very straightforward reasons for that. And so we'll start with disc-based, because I know that a lot of people listening here are movie buffs and are really into the disc side of things. So even compared to discs, so on the audio side that we're using for a Blu-ray disc or a 4K Blu-ray disc, we're using the exact same audio tracks because those are provided by the studio as digitally lossless files, so that they're digitally compressed or losslessly compressed, and so you're getting effectively a bit perfect version of the soundtracks in either Atmos or DTSX or 5.1, 7.1, whatever the studio is releasing, so that all of those are exactly the same. But those, if you look at that, what you can get from disc or from Kaleidescape is on average about 10 times the bit rate that you get from a Adobe digital audio track that you're going to get from a streaming service. Great, that's exactly it. So that first chart on the top there is showing that, so the throughput on audio is, averages about 6 megabits per second, could go up to 17.5 megabits per second. So it could be up as much as 48 times what you can get over streaming, which is is averaging about 500 kilobits per second. So it's a huge difference.
That's massive.
Yeah, and when that's the thing, that if you do a comparison between a streaming version of a movie or a clip and the Kaleidescape version, you instantly can hear the difference in the audio, because there's just more audio, better audio, better detail, better location of the sounds coming from the Atmos space, the DTSX space. But then on the video side, we actually can have even higher bit rates than discs do. So we already have about 10 times, again, the amount of bits that you get off of streaming, just because, again, they're limited to, say, you got to feed stuff through a pipe. But the difference from discs is that discs still have a finite amount of data that you can fit on the disc. Whatever the studio decides the size disc they're going to use, how many layers, is going to decide how many bits you can fit on there. So a typical movie is going to be 66 gigabytes, right? And so on that same disc, they have to put some number of trailers, some number of other promotional material, some number of audio tracks, and the menu structure. And then, so when you put all of that on, and subtitles, which don't take up much space, but when you put all that on, whatever space is left, they need to then fit the movie into that space on the disc. Whereas with Kaleidescape, we don't have a physical boundary. So what we do is go and look at that movie and use our own version of some typical compression formats, H.264, H.265, and then we compress it as needed to fit basically within the HDMI constraint, so that it's going to be somewhere between up to 100 megabits per second. But if there are, like a John Wick, there's a lot of detail, a lot of movement, a lot of things blowing up, and little shards of things going around the image, which when you try to compress that takes a lot of data. And so those are the things that when you look sometimes in a streaming version, you're going to see blocking start to happen, because they can't handle all that data. But we can go frame by frame and make sure that it's visually lossless. And if the file is more than 66 or more than 100 megabits or 100 gigabytes, that it doesn't matter. It's going to take a little bit longer, maybe another minute to download, but it's just we do what we need to do to make that video appear as perfect as we can on your screen. So those are that's the big thing, is all about having the best picture quality on a big screen at home. But then the menu system is also something that I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's it's almost more popular than our logo.
That you can see behind you.
That should be your logo. It's crazy, man. It's beautiful. It's bright. It's vivid. I've used that for because like when I film a home theater tour, it's hard for me to show John Wick playing because YouTube flags that, but I'll put your menu up there and they can see all the color, all the vividness, and I don't get flagged. So it's actually a great thing for me.
Exactly. And so what that is it's a way, it's really a way to decide to help find movies. So when you're looking in your collection, once you get to over a couple hundred movies, you're not sure what you want to watch. If you know what you want to watch, it's easy. You can do the search and put in a couple of letters and find the movie that you want. But if you just want to sit down and have some fun, and you're not sure. So if maybe I want to watch one of the John Wicks. So you can just scroll around that screen, and as soon as you see some sort of action movie on there, if you stop on that, it's going to reshuffle everything on the screen, and the other action movies are all going to come there. And John Wick's probably going to come up right on the screen, so it'll be easy to find. So that's part of the design behind that. And then it works similarly when you go into the store, when you're saying, I want to buy a new movie, I want to watch something new, but I don't have something in particular in mind. So you go into the store and look at a movie that you like, look who's in that movie, who directed the movie, where its studio did it come from, and you can search on all of those things and get a screen full of movies with the same actors or directors or studio.
Yeah. I know one thing last year when I went to CEDIA and interviewed Taylor, great conversation with him. If you guys haven't seen that video on the channel, go check it out. But one of the questions that I had was, does Kaleidescape have the ability? Because I know a lot of things are changing and going to voice. So asking, your Google Home or whatever, saying, hey, I want to watch John Wick 4 on Kaleidescape. Is that something maybe in the pipeline? I think right now you can't do that. Is that correct?
That is not correct, actually.
Oh, you can do it.
We have an interface with Josh AI.
Oh, so okay.
Yep. So if you've got Josh AI, you add that to your system.
Okay.
It will go and it knows the names of the movies, and so you can say, play John Wick 4, and of course that's not going to work today. Play John Wick 3.
Sure.
And it will find the movie. If it's on your system, it'll find the movie. And it, as you might know with the Josh AI, that it's looking across all of your movie sources, right?
Right.
So it's going to go and check your Amazon Prime and your HBO Max and all those things.
And then you pick what you want to watch it on.
But if you own it on Kaleidescape, it's going to pick that one for you.
Okay. That's good to know. Definitely. Super cool. See, you're moving forward, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You're definitely paving the way. I mean, there's no other platform out there. And I think that's what makes Kaleidescape so unique is you really don't have any competition. Of course, there are a lot of people, even in the chat, they're like, what about Plex? Okay, that's an option. But that certainly is not for the guy like me. I mean, I have no desire to try to figure out how to do that and build a network and a NAS and all of that. Kaleidescape just makes it simple. I mean, it's kind of like Netflix on steroids with extreme video quality and extreme high resolution audio in a beautiful menu.
Well, the biggest thing that I see from Kaleidescape is convenience.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Which is not something that's delivered through Plex. Yes, the video quality and stuff on certain titles can be surpassing what you get on disc. But the biggest thing that I tell my customers is if you want ultimate convenience and not have to worry about anything and know that what you're getting is the best quality, then Kaleidescape's probably something you want to look into. And Andre, it sounded like you were going to say something, so sorry, apologies for stepping on you.
No, not at all. But that's the thing. Yeah, it's definitely there are some people, and I'm going to risk offending some people, but there are people that love that whole process of building up a system. Like getting hard drives and setting up a network, and then finding metadata and put it in, getting the cover art and doing all that stuff. And I know from people I've talked to over the years that there are people that just do that, and they want to build their collection and then show people their collection, and they don't watch movies. And so Kaleidescape is the other side of that. Kaleidescape is for people who just want to watch the movie, don't want to think about any of the technology behind it. You plug in your network cable, your power cable, your HDMI cable, and it turn it on and watch your movie. You just go to the store, pick something you want to watch, wait a few minutes, it's there, hit play, and just watch it.
So I think that's a good point that you bring up about Kaleidescape, and I know Ryan has mentioned that on our show before, is that, it takes, depending on your internet connection, it may take, if you got fast internet connection, it could take like 10 minutes to download. So let's say you're at, like you said, you're at the store, you're with your wife, you're like, hey babe, you want to watch a movie tonight? Sure. And you're like, oh, we haven't seen that, whatever. You can say from your phone at the store, go ahead and start downloading. It's downloading to your server. So by the time you get home, you're ready to watch.
Exactly. You're out at dinner. Sometimes you're at lunch with some friends and they talk about a movie. You pull out your phone and you can dial it up and put it in. You don't have to send yourself an email, remind me to go and find that movie when I get home. You just buy it and it's there when you're ready.
So since we're talking about downloading content, right? What happens, and I got two parts to this question, so we'll focus on one first. Who is it, the studio that makes the determination on what version of the film comes on to Kaleidescape, or do you have access to choose which one you're going to watch and play back? Like, say there's a theatrical version, there's an extended cut, and there's a IMAX version, right? Or a director's cut. Who makes that determination on which version is available, or are they all available?
The studio makes that decision. They make whichever version's available for home distribution. They decide what those are going to be, and per platform also. So sometimes people are saying, well, on the disc version, I can get this on disc, but I can't get this digitally from any of the streaming services or purchase services. But Kaleidescape will put, I want to say we'll put out whichever versions they make available to us. Because if you look at some movies, sometimes they're separate titles that have to be purchased separately. So like I think the Hobbit ones, I think like you can buy the theatrical version and the extended version, but they're two separate things. But there's other movies like A Star Is Born is one that I think of that actually has two versions that come with it. You get both the extended cut and the original version as part of the package when you buy.
And I'm correct in saying when you set up to download, you can choose which version you want or both when the download's selected?
Correct.
Or when the download process starts. And this
it's part of the purchase process. So,
and this leads me to my next question of, there's a lot of times when films get updated, like films when they come out on disc and then a new version comes out that maybe has a different audio track or has maybe something was wrong in a previous video segment or scene where there was pixelation or something and the studio went back and fixed that. How is that handled with Kaleidescape?
So that if there's an update, which the pixelation probably isn't going to be an issue on a Kaleidescape system because we're doing our own encoding of it. And so if we get a mezzanine file from the studio and we see a problem with it, we'll notify the studio and they'll go and look at it and fix it themselves before they give it back to us to actually encode for ourselves. And it's interesting that because we've done such a good job QAing our movies, that there are studios that don't even always require us to even send back our version after we've encoded it. Because it used to be that they always wanted to check before we put it out, but they've become pretty trusting of our ability to make good quality movies. And so we'll check the pixelation. But for instance, sometimes the movies that come out very quickly after the theatrical run come out maybe only with a 5.1 soundtrack. But then a few weeks or a month later, they release the Atmos version for home viewing. We will add that to the movie, and what we'll do is we'll tell you that there's an update available, and most of the time these are free updates, and so it's just saying and you can click into it, and it'll tell you what's new in this version. It might be a new audio track, new subtitle track, could be picture improvements, because sometimes we do find things that we want to fix and improve. And then you just click download and it downloads that and replaces the version you had before. Or if it, which effectively, even if it's an added audio track, it's going to re-download the package, but the end result is you get the additional audio.
Well, super cool. Well, we've got a ton of questions. Is it okay if we dive into some of those?
Sure.
I'd love to.
Let me ask a question real quick before we get started. So you, on your slide that you presented, it said that the video quality is better than the actual Blu-ray sometimes. I was curious, like, how often is that? Is that a minority of movies, a majority of movies? Like, I'm unfamiliar. How often is it higher than the actual physical disc?
The typical time when that is on the longer movies. So things like Avengers Endgame is a 3-hour movie, and probably every movie that was in the Oscars this year was a 3-hour movie. So those longer movies, again, the studios have only so much space they can fit on the disc. So if normally it's a 2-hour movie and 66 gigabytes works for that, fine. When you go to a 3-hour movie, now they have to get a third
Compress
more bits
something.
onto
Yeah,
the same
sure.
amount of space. So they're compressing it more. So
Okay.
where in that case, we don't need to compress it as much. And so our file will end up being bigger than theirs. And you can see that on the website too. When you go into the store, and for anybody who doesn't know, anybody can go to the Kaleidescape store. If you go to store.kaleidescape.com, you can see our entire 14,000 movie collection. And you can go in and look at the details, what the audio tracks are, and you can see the file sizes for each of the formats.
I'm browsing it right now.
Go ahead.
It's
you
addicting.
browse.
It's like
I'm actually
Pokemon,
gonna-
man. You're
Collect
like,
them
oh,
all.
I'm gonna buy John Wick, and then before you know it, you're buying every movie in the franchise because they're
Well, they
right
can
there.
actually. This was one of the questions. Can we pre-order it? And so it's actually already on
Yes,
here.
you can.
Yep.
Check that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
finally, things have leveled off after the pandemic. So
Mhm.
before the pandemic, basically what happened, every Friday, a bunch of movies were released in the theaters, and that same day they'd show up on our pre-order list. And but during the pandemic, everything went off the rails.
Yeah.
And so it's taken a little while for the studios to just get their cadence back up. But now it's the pre-order list is getting longer and longer. But things like this, like John Wick, are right there, ready to go.
Yeah, so I really like how you got this laid out. You've got different categories. Of course, you can select movies, TV up here. You've even got categories here,
Yeah, so those are genres.
collections.
And then collections, so you can go by studio. One thing,
this-
I was going to point out, was special pricing.
Can you change that to Youth Man deals or add a Youth Man deals? That would my audience would love that.
There are not, a lot of choices there, but special pricing is a great thing because even though there's like where you showed the banner with the John Wick, there's a bunch of banners at the top of the movie homepage that
Sure,
will talk
back
about
here.
deals that are going on. But if you just want to see this week, what's been specially priced, go into that special pricing.
Special pricing right here. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we just recently updated, I think also within the last month or so, where we actually show the original price X'd out and what the special price is.
So like this one right here says $9.99, drop down to $7.99.
Yeah, there's a couple that don't have a previous
$19.99.
price is odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can get movies for as low as $8.
Yep.
They can go
Probably
lower
about-
than that sometimes. It depends on what the studio's
Yeah.
doing.
But I mean, at least I just sorted by lowest price on the special pricing page.
But very routinely during sales, I mean, you can pick up whole collections for $10 a movie, which is for new
Nice.
movies, which is
Sure.
Yep.
Pretty good.
And again, that's the studio promotion stuff.
Yeah,
that
Don
they're-
says you can get them for cheaper. Super cool.
Well, and so you might also get confused because, as I said, if you've cataloged movies and so there's a disc to digital offer, the price you're going to see is actually the disc to digital offer for you, which is not necessarily the price that everybody else is seeing.
Yeah, true.
I just
it.
sorted
All right,
by
what else you got?
DTSX, and there was one movie. That's not a Kaleidescape problem, but it's just kind of interesting that there's one
Do
title.
you have
Or
any other
DTSX.
filters on?
No, I took off all the other filters. Just chose audio quality and DTSX. That doesn't. There's hardly any anyway.
Click movies at the top of the screen. Just
Sure. Okay, movies at the top.
oh,
Here, let me share my
yeah.
screen. And then,
Oh, okay. I
there's
must
a
have been under the
bunch.
special
find it?
section that we
Yeah.
were looking at.
exactly.
Okay,
You were probably
bunch.
inside a collection.
good call.
Yeah, the filters are awesome, but you just got to get a little bit
Sure.
used to them.
right. All right. Well,
So-
you guys have dropped a bunch of questions over here. So I respect your time. So I want to go ahead and dive into those if that's okay. So here's a great question. SRW1000 says, might we ever see a more affordable version, maybe with less storage? The tech is great, but a player in the $500 to $1,000 range would see wider adoption. So that's a big question that always comes up. So
I saw that was the first one in here. I think he's been waiting.
he's like,
He got
"Can I
out
ask
early
that
just to
now?"
put that out. Exactly. And
Great question,
I
though.
hate for that from a first answer to be
yeah,
basically no comment. But
Yeah.
basically we just don't.
And that's
we don't
okay if you
talk
can't
about
share
things that we. No, that's right. Yeah, we just aren't we don't talk about stuff that's in development and things that aren't released yet, and we haven't announced anything about a lower price player. So
okay,
that's the answer.
That's total fair. All right, next question. Are there any plans? Is this the same? Okay, so this is a different question. Are there any plans to offer a player that does tone mapping, such as some of the Panasonic 4K players?
So that's kind of an interesting question. So the tone mapping that Panasonic players do is something that was designed in cooperation with one of the projector manufacturers.
Correct.
In order to help, because the projector also had a problem with tone mapping. And so they sort of got together and figured out a way to make the player help to drive the projector a little bit better. So Kaleidescape is outputting movies as, what some other companies that I might have worked for before say, with the creator's intent. We are giving you as close to what Martin Scorsese or name your director, Christopher Nolan, what they saw in the post-production suite when they were getting ready to release this movie to the theater. That's the same version of the movie that we're releasing to the home. And so how you have your system at home calibrated and tuned, if that's going to not reflect that creator's intent natively, that's a decision that you're making at home.
Sure.
So yeah, we just want to put out what's coming out of our HDMI port is as close to the original movie as you possibly can get.
Okay. So my audience is pretty much worldwide. We've got, I think the last time I checked my stats, half of my audience are overseas. And so I got a great question here. Hanson says, is there any plans of bringing your services to Australia?
So we would love to be more widely distributed. And it's not a hardware issue at all. It's, again, unfortunately, it comes back to the studio. It's licensing. And if you could imagine how many lawyers there are at each studio, and so how many, so the process that it takes to get through those agreements. So what we've got so far, we have agreements with all the major studios, all the mini major studios, all the major independent studios, and what we're going into now is just further down the line on studios and just trying to make sure that we have the movies that everybody wants to see.
Okay. So Nene 273 says, basically how many movies can you have downloaded? And so I'm assuming that's going to be dependent on the hard drive space. And I know you've got, maybe walk us through what size hard drives are available with Kaleidescape right now.
All right. So we've got 4 Tera servers. 2 of them are compact Tera servers, and those come in 6 terabytes and 22 terabytes.
Okay. And
then we have 2 full-size Tera servers, which come in 48 and 88 terabytes. And
that's a lot.
So the answer kind of to this question is a simple calculation that you can fit about 100 4K movies on 6 terabytes.
Okay.
Or about 200 HD movies. So if you've got the smallest Tera server, you can hold between 100 and 200 movies, depending on what their format is.
Okay.
Unless they're all 3 hours long and 100 gigabytes.
And then it's not working.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and if you need more storage, you just add another server. And so you can just, and it's literally just putting it somewhere on your network. It doesn't have to be in your rack. You can put it in the basement, wherever there's an Ethernet cable, as long as you've got a gigabit Ethernet connection to the rest of the system.
Okay, now, so they
can also run multiple players, correct? So you could run multiple Strato Cs off of 1 Tera system.
Absolutely. So the Strato C, the compact Teras can support 5 streams of 4K video at the same time. And the full-size Teras can support about 10 streams of 4K video at the same time. Okay. And more, obviously, of HD or standard definition.
So that's where you'd put those players in your bedroom, one in the living room, one in the theater room.
Yep, you can do 2 ways. Some people like to have all their stuff in a rack, and they're just running long HDMI runs around the house, which sometimes is fraught with peril.
That'd be hard.
Sure you've dealt with. But so the easier thing in a lot of cases, is if you can get a network connection at the back of your TV, just put the player there and you get a short, fat HDMI cable and you're good to go.
Cool. SRW 1000. Lots of questions here. He says, can owned but not downloaded content ever change? We're seeing book publishers edit new copies. Can that happen with Kaleidescape? Or is the copy you buy the one you always have access to? And that might have been, we kind of addressed that earlier.
Yeah,
right?
but that's an excellent question, because if updates come out, right? If a new audio track comes out, do you have still access to what you had previously, or can the studio dictate what you have access to at any given time?
Mm-hmm.
So to try and simplify the answer, so there's a version of the movie. So if you own John Wick 3 in 4K, and you can, so as you saw on the website before, you can go there and it'll tell you how many audio tracks, what they are, and how many subtitles and all that. That's the version of the movie that we're providing at this moment. So if they add a DTSX track to it tomorrow, they will tell you that there's an update available. You don't ever have to update that version. But I mean, typically with things like adding audio tracks, it's just adding more stuff, so you're not losing anything. But specifically to this question, though, that if the studio does some sort of edit to the movie and provides us a different version of the movie that we end up putting up onto the site to download, if you do an update and get that new version of the movie and there's something that the studio's edited in it, you're going to get that edited version and not the original version.
Okay.
So once you've overwritten the one that you have, you can't have two versions on your system.
I see.
Okay.
So it's whatever is in the repository is going to be what's fed out to the player, or not to the player, but to your Terra if you're downloading it, if you don't already have it on your local storage.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So Leadership Push says, are movies owned or are they licensed?
No movies ever owned. You don't ever own a movie. You only own a license. The trick is, I guess,
even on physical disc.
Even a physical disc, you're purchasing a license. If you look at all the little fine print on there, you're purchasing a license to watch that movie. They just happen to be, in that case, providing you the bits on that shiny disc at the same time.
All right, nice.
And so a good way to think about that is if anybody uses iTunes or some of the other services where they've bought a movie and owned that movie until the license agreement went away from that supplier, and all of a sudden that movie that you bought, you don't own anymore.
Interesting. Makes total sense, though. Blacker007 says, what happens to your movies when Kaleidescape? And I hate this question, but I'm going
to change the when.
Yeah, exactly.
If. Come on.
Yeah, I was like, man, that's pessimistic.
Yeah, that's really pessimistic.
But this is a valid question. What happens if something happens to Kaleidescape? What happens with their movies and those sort of things? So
any movies that you've purchased the bits from us, again, going back to the license and bits and stuff, but you own those bits, and that there's nothing, no one's going to come and take those bits away from you, so you have access to those indefinitely. The last time that Kaleidescape had that shut down for about a week, which still people who don't believe that we ever came back from that, but surprisingly, look at this 8 years later, and we're still doing the same thing. And
right,
during that, even that short period of time, nobody lost access to their movies. Nobody, lost anything. And so, how that, if something catastrophic happened, how that would manifest itself is, I couldn't tell you.
Sure.
The thing but it's also, again, interesting to think about. Again, you're purchasing the movies from the studio. So the fact that you bought it through Kaleidescape doesn't, reduce the studio's obligation to make that movie available to you to some degree. So, that we've seen it with some other services, that some other services in the past have gone away, and the studios came up with a way for people who own that license to be able to watch it on a different service. So
makes sense. So Pedro Ortiz says, is this movie quality like a Blu-ray or 4K disc? And we kind of addressed that earlier. So you're actually getting the full mezzanine file from the studios. And so, and I'm going to put this up here just in case you didn't see it, Pedro, and those of you that are just joining in. So this is kind of a comparison. Actually, let me see if I can hide his question to make that a little bit. There we go. So you can see the actual data from the audio as well as the video. And so audio is pretty much the same as 4K and Blu-ray. streaming, there's no comparison. I think we're all in agreement there. That's just, streaming is terrible. It's convenient, but it's terrible. That's why I always use the 4K if I'm going to really seriously watch it.
It does depend on what particular version of the movie is available from the studio, right? Like not every film that you're going to watch or piece of media on Kaleidescape is a 4K title. They're there if the studio makes them available, and some of them are actually available that never got those types of releases, which I think is really cool. That 1080 Blu-ray and 4K UHD, sometimes you're getting titles that were never available in those pieces of content or versions. But I just want to make it clear that not everything is 4K. Some titles are only available on Kaleidescape. Like a lot of concerts are only available on 1080p.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not upgrading it if we get the movie from the studio in HD. We're not creating a 4K version out of that and trying to make bits that aren't there. But the simplest way to think of it, if it's a Blu-ray or HD version of the movie, it's going to be equivalent, if not better, than the Blu-ray version that you could buy on disc. If it's a 4K UHD version of the movie, it's going to be at least as good, if not better, than the 4K disc.
Perfect. Let's see. I'm trying to skip through some of the home theater questions. So Guillermo says, see, I love to rent new releases or movies I haven't seen, but don't care to own them. That's usually next to impossible to get a lossless, high bitrate experience. Redbox is trash and Gamefly is ridiculous. So he's tried all those other things. And so is there the option to rent movies on Kaleidescape instead of purchasing them?
Absolutely. It might be worth, if you want to put the store back up again, you can see that. Yeah.
Let's do present, share, pop that up there. All right. So let's go to, where are we headed? Is it under?
Yeah, pick action. Just pick a.
Okay. So you would find
a just pick a genre. Yeah.
Okay, so we're under action.
Pricing.
All right, the Batman's pretty new. All right, so we pop that up here.
You see right there on the left side there. So you can rent that movie. You have to put your.
Yeah.
But that movie's available to rent for $7.95, and that's the most popular price for renting movies on our site. And so, about 2/3, I think, of the movies that we have available to purchase or titles are available to rent.
Mm-hmm.
And the rental program works the same as basically you expect it to. So you buy it, you've got 30 days to start watching it. Once you start watching it, you've got 24 hours to watch it.
Okay. Makes sense. Let's go stop sharing. All right, there we go. Great question, Guillermo.
Yeah.
Now, there is a question related to that. There is a question related to that.
All right, go ahead.
When you rent a film, how long do you have to apply that towards the purchase of that film if you wanted to purchase it?
30 days from when you first rent it.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll apply half of the rental fee against the purchase price. Okay.
So Rex asked, are there any studios that maybe have refused to work with Kaleidescape?
There are none that I'm aware of, and I think that I've heard people who know better than me answer that question. I don't think that there are.
Okay. Let's see.
Is there any chance of partnering with these studios to have a launch day release when it's in the theaters? It would also be on your product at some point in the future.
We are ready and able to do that, which we actually did during the pandemic because studios were releasing things on home video on the same day that they were putting them into the studio. Mm-hmm. So our system, and that's a great follow-on from the rental point, because that's what enabled that. When we created the rental technology in our system, allowed us to also offer what we call premium video on demand, which is what you're asking about. So if the studio decides that they want to make that movie available the day that it comes out in the theater, we can do it.
So again, it's up to them.
Yep. And it's just, as you've probably seen, that whole thing that happened during the pandemic has kind of faded away, and that the studios are opting for some theatrical window before movies come out on the streaming, or for home distribution. The only difference is the couple of studios that are also streamers, like Netflix. Sometimes they'll release something on their platform and in the studio if they're going to do in the theater if they're going to do that.
Mm-hmm. So here's a good question. So, and I'm gonna just kind of paint a scenario. Let's say you've got your Terra server, you've downloaded your collection, you've got hundreds of movies on your server, and your internet's out for a couple of days. Can I still watch Kaleidescape?
Absolutely.
Because they're stored on those servers.
They are in your home, or they're on your system, which is, there's a couple of great things about that. One is some people have a second home or trailer or something, a camper somewhere, and so you can have your system at home and download your movies on your, in a place where there's a decent internet connection, and then take it with you somewhere else. You can take it camping, literally, as long as you've got power for it.
Right, sure.
And so
they just wouldn't be able to access the
you can't download
new ones. Yep.
Right, but everything that's on there already will play.
Good question there.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Okay, so Tar Hoya says the store looks like it only supports standard HDR, which makes sense for projectors. With the rise in larger OLEDs, are there any plans to add Dolby Vision versions of movies?
So our current hardware, unfortunately, doesn't support Dolby Vision, but the intent is that future versions would be able to do that.
Okay.
In the meantime, I'm just going to say, if you've got a decent projector or a decent TV, the image processing in that will be able to present the HDR10 version of that movie as good, if not better, than the Dolby Vision version of the movie, and I've seen that proven.
Seen them side by side.
Yep.
Benjamin says, is there a way to view purchased movies when away from? Okay, so we just talked about that. Hey.
No, this is a different question.
Is it? Okay,
he wants to know on a mobile app. So like if you buy a movie from Kaleidescape, can you watch it on your phone? And that is not possible.
Okay.
Just because, again,
is it more like
we're using our system. It's it's 100 gigabyte file, and there's not a way for us to stream that to your home device and your mobile device.
And I think the key there is that you're talking about streaming, and your platform isn't streaming. It's physically reading this massive 60 gigabyte, 70 gigabyte file. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to fit that on here for the most part anyway. And we probably don't have enough. Well, I mean, there's probably enough processing power to handle that. But like you said, that's what you need to have. You've got to have one of the players.
Right.
All right.
What else you got?
Ryan, do you see any more?
So
we got a few more minutes with Andre. Like I said, I value your time, so I don't want to hold you all night. Nope. So another couple minutes. If you got a couple other questions, we'll address those.
Do you have anything while we're waiting on questions that you'd like to maybe say or comment on?
Yeah, anything that we haven't covered that maybe you think that my audience would be interested in knowing, or some clarification questions maybe that you get all the time.
Let's see, what's popular. I mean, the audience has hit most of the popular ones. I think it's just people who are not familiar with Kaleidescape and who look at stuff on the forums and internet and stuff get some misconceptions about what it is and what it's not. And the Kaleidescape is a system for people who love to watch movies at home. It's designed to put up beautiful pixels on a big screen and make it look frankly better than it does in the theater. There's compromises. When you go to a theater, they're trying to make a really bright picture on a 60-foot wide screen. And the contrast ratio, unfortunately, when you're doing that much brightness, suffers unless you're in a Dolby theater.
Sure.
But at home, the technology you can get at home, an OLED TV, obviously, great LCD panels, but even great projectors can make a better picture at home than you can get in a movie theater.
So here are two questions. They kind of tie together. And you and I kind of talked earlier this week that I told you it comes up all the time.
Sure.
So we're just going to go ahead and address it. So Danny asks, can you use your own hard drive storage instead of Kaleidescape drives? And then I think there's another one. I believe this one ties into it. If I use a NAS, can I access my movies on the Kaleidescape? Do those both, are they kind of the same question?
Yeah. The answer is the same. They're not the same question, but
okay.
Yeah, so the thing about Kaleidescape is we're the only organization that studios will sell us the bits of their movies, allow us to encode them as we see fit, and then provide those bits to our customers. And so that's how you get that huge amount of data in your home and make a great picture and great audio. And the only reason that that happens is due to the security, because we have a system that the studios believe that people are not going to be able to go in, grab the bits off of that, put it up on the internet so that everybody can download onto their NAS drives and share, which is not good for the studios.
Right. Totally makes sense. And like I said, that's just a valid question that a lot of people ask on my channel. And so I'm glad we're able to talk about that. It really just comes down to security and protecting the rights, the digital rights of these studios that have made these movies.
Right, so, because, and you know, without Dragon, I know that it was something that you mentioned as a possible other question to talk about. A couple of the other players out there, which are using NAS type systems. The only way to get movies onto those systems is through some illegal means, right? Because all of your agreements when you purchase a disc or sign up for a streaming service say you are not allowed to make a copy of this.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that there's another company that had something like that, and probably sometime last year they had to know they no longer can sell that drive that rips that for you in the US because of that very reason.
Right. You can get the players, but you can't get the NAS server.
Exactly. So kind of interesting there. Here's a great comment from Don from Horizon Home Theater. He says, one thing that was not mentioned is there are hundreds of titles that are on 4K on the Kaleidescape that are not available on 4K on physical media.
That's is a great point. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, this is the digital world, and studios are trying to make as much profit as they can, and distributing discs is expensive, right? You have to make the disc, ship the disc, and inventory the disc. And so some studios are just opting not to provide that, the 4K versions that way. They provide it to streaming services, they provide it to Kaleidescape. And so, so for people looking for that higher quality who are getting either disc version or Kaleidescape version, there's about a third of the movies. So it's about 700 or so movies that are not available on disc that are available from Kaleidescape in 4K. And if you happen to be an owner and belong to the Kaleidescape Owners Forum, they publish that list every month, and you can see what they are.
Oh, does Kaleidescape support 3D? Like when you were talking about what movies that are hard to find on physical media or maybe no longer manufactured, I thought of Gravity, which has Atmos and 3D version, which is like impossible to find. And then so I didn't see a 3D version, but I don't know if you have it or not.
Kaleidescape does not support 3D, which is disappointing to me too. But it's just, I guess there's a section of the metadata that needs to be provided with a 3D movie to determine, tell the display device what to do, and so we just don't have that those versions in our collection.
Okay.
Probably got time for about two more quick questions. So Benjamin says, do the players support high frame rate films? So I know like
there's
Gemini Man was what, was that 120 or 60? 60 frames a second. I mean, does it support 60 frames a second? I would imagine it would, right?
We do support 60 frames a second, but I don't think that the studio put out the home version of Gemini Man in 60 frames. But the most infamous movie, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, is available at 60 frames a second.
Okay.
That movie was originally released at 120 frames a second in stereo, which was an intense experience.
So I have a random question. When is Avatar available for off a pre-order? There's no date.
Again, you have no control over that.
I
right?
know. I'm just seeing if there was anything.
Yeah.
If there was any knowledge. I want to watch it. I haven't seen it yet.
I would I don't want to get in trouble.
Sorry for putting.
I was going to try and be coy, and I realized I shouldn't. So.
We don't want to get you in trouble there.
I put you on the spot. It's not a big deal.
Last question.
When it's on pre-order,
go ahead.
means it'll be there pretty soon.
Yeah.
Nice. So last question for Andre. Appreciate all your questions for Andre, man. And I really appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday night to hang out with us and address these comments and questions. Here's the last question for you. Benjamin says, how are aspect ratios handled? So especially films that change their aspect ratio mid-playback.
Yep, is a great question and a great issue to deal with. And that, is a studio issue for the most part. So in general, every movie that Kaleidescape has on our library includes metadata that tells the downstream systems what the aspect ratio is. And so that is a great tool for being able to set masking or lens position if you've got a widescreen, like a 235 screen at home and you love to watch movies, but you need to be able to switch for 16:9 or 1.33:1. And so we accurately portray all of that information, but unfortunately that we don't have a system that does it on a kind of scene by scene basis. And so for the movies that came out or with different versions, like Top Gun is one that is mostly a 235 movie, but because they made the effort to shoot some of the scenes in the IMAX format, they decided to put those onto your screen. And so that we don't have that gets categorized, the studio tells us what to put out the frame rate as. And so I think that one, for instance, is 178, which allows you to see the full frame version of when it goes into IMAX mode. And it's just unfortunately that the rest of the time you're seeing a letterboxed version of that. And it's really not a big deal so much for a flat panel display because there's nothing you can do about the aspect ratios anyway.
Yeah.
It's the people who have screens and have 235 screens at home that would love to have the system automatically be able to switch in and out. And so there are a couple of scaling devices that people use downstream, which will actually do that in real time. It'll fix the image post, but there are compromises in that as well.
So even if you were able to tell my projector, hey, this just switched from 16:9 to 2.35, by the time my projector did the lens memory, it was already time to switch back. Exactly. So it would really help us out on our end. Right. And that's where you would have an external video processor like a MadVR that can automatically take care of that for you.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome if the studios would put those movies out in two versions, so that people who wanted just the 235 version got 235 all the time, and those other scenes were cropped appropriately, so that you don't have to switch in the middle of the movie.
Sure. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump over to some questions that you've got on home theater. But Andre, man, thank you so much. Seriously.
Thanks for giving me the time.
Super, super cool hearing about the exciting things that Kaleidescape is doing, the changes that you're making to make a better experience for home theater enthusiasts, and just making a killer product. And we're excited to have you at M-Wave this year.
Oh, thanks. I'm looking forward to it and really appreciate the time. It was really good to be here with you guys. So,
Andre, can I ask you one question last? I know you just got your 4-well.
Oh my golly, Jonathan. Yes. Overtime. You got to pay for his overtime.
All right. So here's the question. I know you have those really awesome little short clips that are kind of per movie. I don't think we talked about that in here, but that's one of the coolest features of Kaleidescape.
Oh, scenes.
You can show like here's some highlights. Is there any ability to kind of say, hey, I would like this timestamp and have that submitted into like a vote up box or something in the future to say, hey, this particular scene would be awesome to add to the list of.
You can make your own.
Well, yeah, you can create your own scenes anytime.
Then
you can create as many scenes as you want.
Create scripts and actually script them all together so they run in sequence.
Oh, there you go.
You can create your own demo rules. Now, there's
you already got
cool
Jonathan wanting to buy a case. Here's one other thing I will do, because you had shared with me, there's a lot of support on your website. So if you go to, and I've linked not only the promo video as well as this link in the description below. So if you're watching this on the replay or you want to check this out later, you can go to support.kaleidescape.com. And that's just got a ton of information, questions maybe that weren't addressed here on the live stream. And then if they've got additional questions, of course, they could always reach out to your team directly from the website.
Absolutely. And for instance, people wanted some more detail about that, the disc cataloging feature. If you go to support@kaleidescape.com, the third thing down on that homepage is the article for that. Click into that. It's got information, and it's got 4 players that we have actually qualified ourselves, so that and with a link where you can buy them.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that other ones don't work. These are just vetted. We know these work. So if you're wanting to buy one and know that it's going to work, then these are ones.
Exactly.
So, and I know some people asked about pricing, so I'm just going to say email Ryan, and then he's a dealer for Kaleidescape. He can talk about the different products that they offer and the pricing for each and availability and all that such.
There's 5 products. It's not that hard.
Yeah. Well, Andre, it's been a pleasure, sir. Are you going to be at M-Wave, or are we getting somebody else there?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it's Adam and Chuck.
Okay.
Maybe not Chuck. I know Adam's going. I don't know who's going with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I do remember Adam's going. So I mean, I never know, because I found out last week that I'm going somewhere next week. So it could happen. I would love to be there if that's where I need to be. I'm more than happy.
Well, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me tonight. It was great.
Absolutely. Yep. Andre, take care. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night. Bye.
Cool, man. So if you guys have questions regarding Kaleidescape, like I said, you can reach out to Ryan directly. He'll be glad to talk to you more about that. And but let's go ahead and jump into we'll ask some questions or answer some questions for a little while.
Well, something that I want to bring up first is something I want to bring up first, and this isn't to nitpick, but I was under the impression that the Panasonic tone mapping was not necessarily developed in conjunction with JVC. I thought they just had a JVC mode, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah. Jonathan, do you know about that?
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that Panasonic came out with that HDR tone mapping a long time before, but I really don't know the history enough to like comment affirmatively on that. But my suspicion was that Panasonic came out with that on their own.
I want to say it was developed to help subjugate kind of how crappy a lot of the projector's tone mapping was at the time. It's static, it's not dynamic, if I remember correctly. So I think it was kind of supposed to work maybe with something like the RS 400, 500, and 600 generation, and those era of projectors, not necessarily just those JVCs, but just wanted to throw that out there.
And low nit displays too, not only just projectors, but just
yes, that's a good point.
Yes, because it was HDR was made for 1,000 nit displays, and at the time it came out, very few displays were 1,000 nit. So it was kind of
no projector is delivering 1,000 nits.
No, still no projector.
No,
not even TV displays were very often 1,000.
Well, and if you go out like at CEDIA, when we were looking at the Christie Eclipse, which is a 25,000 nit display, what we were actually seeing on the screen was only like 150, 180, maybe 200 something. So we were well below it. But if we were up at 1,000 nits, I think we'd all be blind by how much light was being put off by the screen. Because I think light output's a little bit different when the screen is that large. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
The other thing that I didn't really want to challenge in person, but he said that if they went out of business, they wouldn't take your bits away. But if you built up a giant catalog on the Kaleidescape servers, and say you had thousands of dollars invested in their movies, but you can only have a small percentage of them downloaded at a time based on how much hard drive space you buy, you're not getting those other movies back.
Yeah.
And to go to the studios and argue and try to arm wrestle to get your licenses, good luck. I'd say.
I think it's going to be up to the studios if they partnered, like say another company came out to offer the same thing that Kaleidescape, that might be able to. Again, I don't know how that works.
I think there's too much gray area in that to really say anything about it.
I feel like on something like that, you just kind of say, hey, our business is doing well. We're thriving. We've been around for this long.
Sure.
And, we're going to support you as long as we continue to do well. If we're not doing well, that's kind of the risk you're taking by buying into our system. I prefer that take.
Kaleidescape is doing great, just so everybody's aware.
Yeah. I mean, they seem like they're doing well.
For right now, they're doing very, very well. So I think there's several other questions that people may have. And if you guys have any other questions, I'm going to star them as I see them. But
here's one in regards to Kaleidescape. Do you need a 1 gigabit of speed for Kaleidescape?
You don't have to. So the Strato S, the previous generation, the Strato S, which was the player and the storage built into one unit, had a maximum download capability of like 300 and something megabits. Now with the Strato C and the Terras, it's moved up to I think 800 and something megabit. So your download times have drastically decreased, and that means less waiting for the movie. So that was one of the big advantages that you had with moving from the Strato C to something like the Strato, or the Strato S to the Strato C and Terra. Plus, they support more simultaneous streams. But you don't have to have a 1 gigabit speed. It's just how fast your download capability is going to dictate how long it takes for you to get the film. Bruce, I've been starring questions from the beginning, but if you guys, well, yeah, I've been starring questions or attempting to star them from the beginning. We're going to start from the top down.
Yep.
There's not a ton of them so far. So if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. Usually we're inundated with questions by this point, but we've been answering questions on Kscape for quite a while.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't hear your question get answered within the next 10 minutes or so, and you asked it at the very beginning of the stream and it wasn't Kscape related, go ahead and ask it again.
So Bruce, we do have yours starred about the UST projectors. So
Ryan, have you noticed, you know how different streamers are sometimes kind of buggy, and I don't have any background on this. I'm not suggesting they are, but has your experience with your Kscape been like problem free?
The Kscape's rock solid.
Great.
I have zero problems with it at all.
I can tell you something I do have problems with. my janky Plex server. It sucks. I hate using
Plex, are you listening?
Dude, half the time I hit play and the thing just spins. I'm like, whatever. Somebody come over for a demo. I'm like, yeah, check this.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Kaleidescape is built like it's like the parasound of sources. I've never had an issue with it. I've never had to restart it. I've never had a problem with it. They just work. Now, sometimes you run into hardware issues. Kaleidescape takes care of it. I'm a dealer, so I see them every once in a while.
Sure.
But their support's great to take care of. Andre does an excellent job with the support side. But as far as using the player and like bugginess or the user interface and stuff, no, man, they just work. I have zero issues with them.
And is it like a home theater PC with a underlying like Linux or Windows OS, or is it like a purpose-built hardware?
They're purpose-built. I mean, they're not very big. I mean, they fit in a 1U. At least the Strato C and a Terra Compact will fit in a 1U rack unit. Now, when you get into the 48 and the 88s, they are a multi-U rack unit because they use full-size 3.5-inch hard drives, multiples of them.
Sure.
So they're bigger, but no, they're purpose-built for this. I don't know what they're doing. I'm sure it's a Linux kernel of some sort, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, so I'm going to keep asking you.
Turntable thing, kind of like a Laserdisc player in there. One big one.
They had players like that, right? The old Premiere systems and stuff. They had disc changers, right? That you would store a bunch of discs in and just rack upon rack upon rack of them. That's where they started, and they've now moved to a digital direction.
Yeah.
So my questions don't have any nefarious intent here. I just don't know.
No, I get it.
I haven't done anything with Kscape.
Yeah.
User replaceable drives. If you have a drive fail, is it okay? So you got to
send it back to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Ryan flies to your house and tears it apart, puts it back together.
Usually when that happens, it's get in contact with your dealer and your dealer will take care of you. So if you guys run into an issue, like an I'm your dealer, I work with you with Kaleidescape. So you don't have to deal with Kaleidescape. I deal with Kaleidescape. You guys have a good experience, and then we go from there.
Yeah. You're the middleman. Cool. All right. So Chadman says LS 12,000 projector, about 17-foot throw distance from 152-inch Seymour AT CinemaScope screen with 4K Blu-rays or widestream streaming content. I see content on black border above and below. What's the issue?
Content? You mean gray bars, or do you mean like there's content down there?
Is it, Chadman, is it a CinemaScope screen? 17-foot throw distance with a 4K Blu-ray.
He says he has an AT CinemaScope screen.
Border. Yeah, but I don't know if it's it's CinemaScope. That's probably because you're looking at 16 by 9 content.
content
You have to have a different lens memory, and you have to shift and zoom the image to fit, you're going to have black bars in left and right for 16:9, but you have to shrink it down because the projectors don't do scaling native. You'd have to have an external scaler.
So
you can
with the
use
LS12000, do they have that feature?
Lens memory?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So basically, you're going to
also
zoom in to fill up the width of that, and then that's going to push those gray bars above and below, and then you just set that as a preset. So you have to manually change that.
Yeah, and there's also, I mean, some people with their 16:9 content, there's a shading or a blocking feature on the Epson and JVCs too, for that matter, or Sony's.
Blanking.
And you can, you just bring that down, but you'll cut off the top and bottom of your actual picture if you're in a 16:9, media. And sometimes that might have your subtitles, or it might have content up there that you want to see, your DVD player menus, all that kind of stuff could be cut off potentially.
Sure.
So better to have two lens memories, one for 16:9 and one for 235:1.
If you have something like an IP control system, Crestron, RTI, Control 4, I'm not saying you do, but they can automate that kind of stuff for you based on what aspect ratios they see from the content coming in from the player, which Kscape can interface with them and do things like dim your lights, change for things like masking and all that kind of stuff. It can interface with the IP control system to dictate all of that. So, man, Jonathan's just like, screw this, man. Just
made him mad.
I just thought I'd have a visual example.
He's like, forget y'all, man. What you got here?
You got lens 1 and lens 2 right here on your Epson remote.
Yep.
And this is for the LS12000, guys.
Yeah,
just
that's
so you're
the
aware.
projector that's in
Look
the
at
back
there,
of my
dude.
room here.
Boom.
So you program this. I use lens 1 for 16:9 and lens 2 for 235:1, and then it's just a button press, a single button press.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. I wish JVC would add that. I gotta go menu down.
Then you got to push escape F on the JVC too after it's done.
Yeah.
I've heard if you yell at him enough, it'll get angry and scared of you and then change it for you.
Actually, I do hit the I do have a thing on my Harmony that allows me to do that. And actually, I'm glad I just saw that because we did have a super chat that came in earlier. So don't want to forget that. Let me go find that real quick. We just got another one.
So Chadman says he has Control 4. He asked if he's too zoomed in. You're not too zoomed in. What's happening is the AVR is going to put that all content that's coming in from the source and the AVR when it overlays its GUI is going to be done on 16:9, right? That's just how it is. So when it comes in, if you're zoomed and lens controlled for a CinemaScope screen, any type of volume control, or like if you've got chapter selection and stuff or fast forward that's showing up top, it's going to be off your screen if you're watching like a CinemaScope movie. If you do lens shift, like Jonathan was just talking about, and zoom it in for 16:9 content, it will then be on your screen. So it's just something you have to contend with.
Yeah, it's a trade-off.
Yep.
So Eric, I certainly appreciate the $10 super sticker. I'm going to take a glance. I don't think you had a question. I just want to make sure. I'm just gonna
because he's
down
awesome.
Yeah, you rock, man. No, I don't see a question. If I missed it, definitely let me know, add it again, but I'm just scrolling a little bit, so I don't see that. And then we just saw another one come in. John Long, appreciate the $10 super sticker as well, man. Love you guys, man. Y'all are super, super awesome. So he says, John Lang says, great job, guys. So we try, man. We try to bring you guys valuable content, answer your question. There you go. Ryan,
okay.
Ryan's trying, man.
I'm trying. It's difficult here. You can see the heart.
It looks funny.
What was the time a couple weeks ago where we were trying to demonstrate and I couldn't get the hands?
Oh, man. Yeah.
People were probably like, man, Ryan's having an aneurysm. What's wrong with him? And so everything's backwards.
Oh, sure. All right. Let's go back to your questions here. All right, Bruce, got to your question. So can UST projectors on acoustic, or can you use UST projectors on acoustic weave screens, or can you see the weave because of the light hits it at such an extreme angle? Great question, man. So let me think. So here's the difficult thing. Because it's such an angle, I always recommend using like an ALR screen, because they specifically are designed to hit that. Basically, they have like kind of like notches. And so when it hits the light, the whole purpose of the ALR, yes, it's going to block out some of the, your ambient light coming from outside, or maybe you've got your ceiling lights on and it's going to block some of that. but it also helps to angle that kind of angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection. Instead of shooting that reflected light image on your ceiling, it's going to point it directly at your viewing position. So I just always recommend that. And I think there's also a ceiling, what do they call that? CLR screen. I haven't had any experience with those, but I'd recommend just getting a.
My recommendation is almost always
ALR.
to use a screen that is designed and recommended to use with an ultra short throw, because the light's coming at it in a different direction. And if it's not designed to work that way, that's why a lot of ultra short throws come with screens, because they're specifically designed to work in those those types of environments. You may have a non-ideal experience. We're going to have some ultra short throws and their companies at M-Wave. So I think that would be an ideal opportunity for people to ask, because not a lot of people have experience with them, but a lot of guys that do ultra short throws end up doing screens that are dedicated or designed for ultra short throws.
Yeah, for sure. And they're relatively new. I mean, they've only been out several years, and I know they're constantly changing. And interestingly enough, they now make, I think Seymour now has an ALR acoustically transparent screen, which is cool. I didn't think that could even be done, but they've done it. So
speaking of ultra short throws, can they be mounted on the ceiling?
So I've reviewed many on the channel, and it really just depends on the manufacturer. So some brands and certain models have that feature, and some of them don't. So I don't think, you may have to like go into their manual on their website to see, because typically I don't think they mention that aspect as a feature on their website. So if you're looking at like a Hisense, you either probably have to look at somebody's review or go on their website, maybe dig into the actual manual to see, does it give me the option to do a ceiling? I think that in theory, it sounds like a good idea. One question that I have, it goes back to your question, Bruce, on the angle. So now you've mounted it to the ceiling. You've still got that stark angle
alignment.
So now what do you do with the ALR screen? Remember, it's rejecting light coming down from the top.
Put it upside down.
Yeah. I mean, do you got to flip it upside down?
Just turn the whole theater over. Yeah. Just mount everything upside down.
All the lights have to be on the floor.
Just everything. We've talked about speakers on the floor. Just invert the whole thing. It's all got to flip over.
I think it's going to create some challenges. I think it can be done.
Well, then imagine trying to align it.
It's going to be
hard. It would be so hard. You know how hard it is to even align a projector that's on a projector mount?
Yep.
I can only imagine what that would be like with an ultra short throw.
Well, I mean, again, I've reviewed a bunch of them, and that's the most difficult part of an ultra short throw projector, is getting it high enough, getting it far enough from the wall. Because most of the time, if you think about it, your cabinet is fixed. You can't raise your cabinet. You can't lower your cabinet. It's going to sit at a certain height. So you pretty much have to mount your screen based on the height of your, the position of your cabinet and the height of that ultra short throw screen. So it definitely adds some challenges there. Tar Hoya, appreciate the $10 super chat. Says, no question, but wanted to give a quick shout out to Ryan. Just ordered a Hypex amp from Buckeye after learning about them from your video a few months ago while researching. Super, super cool, man.
Getting a cramp there? What's happening?
No, I don't know. Just ignore me. I'm excited. This is my excited face. Okay.
Hey, we don't get that. Hey, let's blow it up, because we don't get that face very often. Look at there, man. He's actually smiling. I love it.
I'm not frowning.
I love it, man. John has a question. He says, I have a Denon X3700H looking to add on-wall speakers to be Atmos speakers. Okay. So they're Yamaha NS AP 2600. Do they need to be angled downward to be as effective as Atmos speakers? So let's think through this. So he's putting them on wall. Yeah. So basically, if you've got them up high and they're just facing straight like a bookshelf speaker,
don't do that.
Yeah, you're going to have to get those angled down.
But if he inverts the room like an ultra short throw, we may
sit on the ceiling, man.
Because then it would align with him.
Yeah. AP 2600. Let me just look at it.
So if you're mounting things on your ceiling, my recommendation, if you're doing bookshelves, is to aim them at the main listening position.
Correct. Yeah, I'm looking at, see if I can find a picture here. Are you finding one yet?
Yeah, I just did an image search. They're kind of like a little small. Maybe they got a 2.5 inch, 3 inch driver, I'm guessing, in them. They're just kind of a small home theater and box type speaker.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's this right here. Okay, I think I've got it.
Show us.
What in the world?
Hurry up.
No, I don't know how.
What's taking so long?
Because YouTube just popped up and started playing. I'm like, what is that noise, man? All right, here we go. Stream
failure.
It was like, it kind of freaked me out. All right, where is the? Oh, I know why. It was part of the YouTube video. That's what it was. So I clicked on this thinking it would show me the image. So yeah, so you can kind of see it here.
Which is it?
It's the little guys
the little
behind
one back there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to aim them
assuming
down.
you already have these.
Let's see. I think.
Correct.
There we go. I was trying to show just a picture of it.
Is it a little home theater in the box?
That's what it looks like a 5.1 system.
So probably not like proprietary connections. They're probably, at least I would hope.
Yeah, they just have a little black and red terminal on the back.
He already has them. Okay.
Push terminal.
Yeah, you're going to want to aim those back towards you.
Correct.
For sure.
Yeah, because the tweeters are like mid-range, and tweeters are very directional. So if you put them up high, they're going to be shooting like across your room, and you're going to be so far off axis, it's not going to sound good at all. So definitely angle those down. And I think
but if the room's upside down,
it's going to be, honestly, the hard part with that is, just being smaller speakers. I mean, you're going to drive them pretty loud, I would imagine, if you're using them as height speakers. So just keep that in mind, but I think it can definitely work. Walker says, Paradigm Defiance X1500, $2,200 Canadian versus SVS PB 3000, $2,700 Canadian. Is the SVS worth the extra money? So he's comparing Paradigm Defiance X15 with a SVS PB 3000. So I haven't reviewed any of the Paradigm subwoofers, so I definitely cannot contribute to that conversation. Have you guys reviewed or heard any Paradigm subwoofers?
Not the X15. I've heard Paradigm subwoofers. My gut tells me to go to SVS in that lineup, but I'm going to try to find a review. Well, you can keep going on. I'll come back.
Yeah, the hardest thing is, anytime you ask, is it worth the extra money? That's always, to me, it's always a subjective thing. I mean, you're talking $500 difference. Only you can determine whether or not $500 difference is going to.
Jonathan, I found it on Audioholic, so I'm looking at the graphs right now.
Good. So my gut check on that, and the reason I said SVS is because we've talked about this before. If you have a company that basically got its roots in subwoofers, and you have a company that kind of makes subwoofers as a side show, then I'm going to go for the company that makes, like that's their bread and butter. That's what they're known for. So that's the gut reaction there. But we'll see what Ryan comes up with his review. I'm kind of looking for a review as well.
I'm not reviewing it. I'm just relaying the review.
Sure.
So take that for what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so the Paradigm can get. Paradigm runs into distortion below 16 hertz. It hits third harmonic, and you're still going to have output, but it's going to be, as far as Audioholics is concerned, it's too distorted to carry on. Do you actually? No, it falls off a cliff. So it falls off rapidly.
Okay, so it's down to about 16 hertz.
The SVS, so 16 hertz for the Paradigm is 99.8 decibels.
Okay.
With a THD of 16.
Brian, share your screen.
That's what I'm thinking.
Fine.
Like, man.
That's too difficult.
Yeah, but it makes it easier for us to follow.
No. It creates work for me.
Yeah,
that's what it does.
Make you work, dude. There we go.
So there's that one. You dummy.
Yeah, you probably have to do two screens.
All right, we'll do this one first. So this is the Paradigm.
Can you zoom in? Control plus. There you go.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the frequency response, the different modes. Movie mode, music mode seems to be the flattest.
Okay.
I guess they
It's
do
really-
music mode to get the
Little bump.
It's really like a 25 hertz tune there.
Yeah.
See how it starts rolling off
Yep.
about 25 hertz.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is what they have it for SPLs.
Okay.
Right. So can I bring up multiple here? When I tried to share a screen,
I
it
don't
didn't
Just
let me.
use your
can.
Windows features to drag this over to the left and then make a new tab and put the
Oh, you
other
want me
browser on the
to? Okay. I'll just share
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
hold
desktop.
on. I got it.
Yeah, that'll work. Then you could just tab.
Yeah, I'll just
Pause
share
and
my
come.
entire screen here.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and hide your question here.
Entire screen. Okay. There you go.
Maybe that'll work. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Get rid of us.
How's
Oh, there
that?
we go. Oh, loving it, man. Loving it. You're a whiz.
Look at that. Just look at it.
That's glorious.
So this on the left is the PB3000. On the right is the SB3000. So ported and sealed.
Okay.
Thanks, Sloan.
So you're probably looking at ported versus ported. So
Mm-hmm.
let's scroll down a little
You
bit
shut
and
the
see
door?
where they're at. It's nice to have a common review site for both these. That's good
Mhm.
luck. So at 20 hertz, 105 versus 108. At 25 hertz, 109 versus 108. At 31 hertz, 114 versus 113. At 40 hertz, they're both at 118. 50 hertz, they're both at 120, but effectively at 63 hertz. 60 hertz, the paradigm's larger driver is starting to walk away, it looks like. So you get a little bit more oomph out of the SVS at the lower frequencies, and you get a little bit more out of the paradigm at the higher frequencies. Probably pretty comparable, actually.
Mm-hmm. So maybe it's worth just saving the money.
So there is a 12.5 hertz reading, but it's really low on the SVS, but it didn't outright fail at that, is what that means.
Mm-hmm.
At the 16 hertz, what was 16 again?
16 hertz, the
96.
paradigm's higher.
Interesting.
Paradigm's got a 3 dB advantage. At 20 hertz, the SVS has a 3 dB advantage.
So we're not talking massive differences here, but we
Yeah.
are talking probably a 15-inch driver versus the PB3000's what,
13.
12-inch?
13.
13 inch, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got more surface area. Probably going to be a bigger cabinet.
So Audioholics has a pretty good review program. Read both of these reviews and then just kind of make your decision from that. It doesn't look like there's a world of difference between these two, to be quite frank.
Oh, remember the PB3000 is probably going to be a pretty large cabinet because it's ported.
Oh, true. Is the other one sealed or
The
ported?
Defiance sealed with a response like that?
Okay.
I think
Is that what you're saying? I didn't.
Yeah, I'm asking if it's
I don't
sealed or
know.
if it's
I
I'd
thought it
be
was
surprised if
sealed,
it's
but
not
I don't know.
ported.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with
Because
any-
that doesn't look like a sealed response unless they've done a lot of DSP to it. And then the DSP won't hold up at max volume. So if that chart is max volume, then
Maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
looks
No, it's
looks
ported.
sealed.
looks
It's ported.
okay. It must be rear or down fire and ported.
Yeah. It's probably rear ported.
Okay.
Its response certainly looks like a ported driver.
Cool.
Well, all right. Pretty neutral on that one.
That works. So again, goes back to the age old thing. You got to figure out, is it worth do the benefits of the SVS, does it make that much difference? Whether it's aesthetics, whether it's size of cabinet, whether it's they have an app, Defiance maybe doesn't. So cool. Finster says, have two PB3000s in a 20 by 35 room. Was going to add butt kickers, but now thinking of adding subwoofers. Better to add more PB3000s or shift to JTR RS1 or 2400, but may have to start with just one due to cost.
That's a big room.
Yeah. I know you guys think I'm a JTR fanboy, but there's a reason. They're beastly, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the RS1's going to dig way, 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 way lower than a PB3000. Going to have a ton more output as well.
And the 2400 is going to have way more output in the mid-bass region.
Mm-hmm.
The 2400 is going to just surprise your socks off compared to two PB3000s.
Oh, yeah. So it'll dominate them.
Yeah.
It won't be a small change.
No.
Yeah.
So if you sold your two PB3000s and bought a JTR 2400, you would be amazed. Truly. I mean, we've seen that happen in multiple subwoofer shootouts. So truly, like we're not exaggerating. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
And they're going to be at M-Wave. So,
well, I think both of these subs are on database. So let's look at these.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can do the little overlay compare at database. So that'll be real good.
I can do the what?
The overlay. You can add a system and show two over the top of each other.
Why don't you just do that? Because you know what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. Either way.
Go ahead, man.
Okay. Present.
I've never done that on database.
Share screen. Share screen.
And I'm going to remove your comment here.
Okay, so here we go. Share entire screen. And let me go to database. And we'll go to systems. And you're looking for JTR 2400.
Mm-hmm.
Captor Area 2400.
Okay.
And then we'll say, go down to our charts. And we can add another one here. We're looking at PB 3000.
Mm-hmm.
They probably don't have that because that's a newer one. So we might have to go to something similar. What do we got here? PB13 Ultra. That'd be similar.
That'd be
similar
pretty close.
enough.
Okay, so you say add.
Oh my God.
That's sweet.
Yeah, well, wait a second. Let's get to the output because that's just
cool,
the frequency
though.
response.
Nice, though.
So, scrolling down. Here we go. All right, so the JTR is the blue line.
Okay.
And the PB13 Ultra is the different modes, but it's below.
Yeah.
So look right here in this frequency that makes you smile.
Yeah, it just walks the dog on it.
It's almost 10 dB higher.
Yeah.
In the 16 hertz type range, and that's a huge difference. And then up here you're talking like here's 119 and here's 113, so it's like it's still significant here.
That's a big difference. 6 dB is a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah, if we were talking 2-3 dB, all right, I mean that's good, but I mean that's significantly more for sure.
Yeah, I mean this type of level of output.
That's a cool tool, man.
105 dB at say 12 hertz. What are we looking at? 12.5 hertz. 105 dB will make your lungs start shaking. Like it will feel weird to your body, and your walls will.
Jonathan, wasn't it this sub that delaminated your grout?
No, those were orbit shifters, which are even more ridiculous than this one.
True, yeah.
They're a horn, and so instead of like ported gives you twice as much as sealed effectively, or 6 to 10 dB more. A horn does like quad what a sealed does, and in the higher frequencies. So, I mean, the horns are ridiculous. So that orbit shifter is a horn. But yes, I mean this. I've got a video on YouTube, and you can look it up. Look up Captivator and ULF, and you'll find it. And you can, I show what my room's doing. It activates your projector screen. It starts like flapping if you're playing test zones at that frequency. The gel in your eyes starts feeling like it's shaking. Your lungs are shaking. Like it's like, if you haven't experienced that before at higher SPL, you can't stop grinning when you first experience it.
There's a reason why I have a anti-vibration mount on my projector, had to change screens and a bunch of other stuff, is because my subs were causing problems, and I had to find ways to get them to stop interacting with those things.
Sure. So a couple of thoughts on that. So Finster says, would seat-to-seat consistency be as good with just one JTR? So you recommended he has 2 subwoofers. Now he's going to 1. So he's going to maybe lose some of that.
Temporarily.
Buy another one down the road.
You will buy another one.
That's awesome, man. And so Lacquer, you asked a question about which ones do I have. So I have the JTR Captivator RS2s. So it's basically the RS1 with a stacked RS. Basically, it's like two
effectively
RS1s.
two RS1s.
Yeah, stacked. I'll pull up the screen here just real quick. Let's go to, so here we go. And then jump back over here, share screen real quick. Window. There we go. All right. So there they are. So you can see the RS2s, and they're the same height as my LCR, which are the 212 HTRs. So the 212 HTRs have dual 12s in them, and then the RS2s have dual 18s in a sealed cabinet, 220-pound weight, and a 4,000 watt amplifier. And I think Jeff offers a 6,000 watt amplifier upgrade.
You need like a can of Coke in that picture to show size, because that thing's immense and it's kind of hard to tell in the picture.
I mean, that's 18 inches. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Two 18-inch
Look how small the 12 looks.
I know it, man. You're looking at that. Those look like 8s. They're so cute.
Oh.
No, those are 12-inch drivers next to the 18.
It's like looking at the 10-inch drivers on the 410s.
Yes. The first time Jeff sent me a picture of that, he's like, "Hey, look what I'm working on."
Look at these 6-inch drivers.
I thought it was 6, maybe 8-inch. He's like, "No, those are 410s." And that horn is either 21 or 23 inches wide and tall. I went, holy cow, man. That is a monster of a speaker.
Yeah. They're not small.
Yeah. Great question, Finster. Horizon Home Theater. So Don asked, he says, one thing. Oh, no, we hit that. Perfect. I'll unstar that. Appreciate that comment, Don. SR 1000. We already did that too. When's a giveaway?
Nice.
Ryan, when are you giving away a Kaleidescape?
No.
Okay. I'm not giving away one. I don't even have one for me. So, all right, Jonathan, you mentioned in the past looking for a new low back theater seating. Did you ever find low back seats that you liked?
They fell off the boat.
Oh man, don't tell me that. It's kind of a weird deal. I don't have any tracking number or anything, but they're supposed to arrive.
So the ones that you're getting are low backs?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't know that.
They're supposed to arrive in early
They're comfy.
April, so we'll see.
Yeah. In 2027, they're scheduled to arrive.
No, Bruce, they're not Valencias. They're Manhwa.
Manhwa.
Yeah.
Direct from the factory in China.
Okay.
Man, they were hard to find.
Yeah.
You couldn't get them in the US.
No.
You had to order overseas if I wanted black leather, which I did. It was either white leather or from Nebraska Fur Smart or brown from like another place.
But they're comfy.
Black.
Yeah,
and they're well made, I think.
This company actually developed and built the company based on Jonathan's order, which is why it's taking so long.
Yes.
That sounds a little exaggerated.
I hope they come really quick, man. I know you've been waiting, been very patient, and got a good deal on them, so that's awesome. Yeah. Bruce Barnes says, Ryan, do you have a brother, Rome Charpentier, that is a pro drifter?
No.
Okay. Another dude.
No, I don't.
Okay. Sedlang says, anyone with a Shield Pro is able to run a 4K movie with Dolby Vision.
The Shield 2019 supports Dolby Vision.
Doesn't bother me or doesn't help me. I got a projector.
No.
Well, I now have a TV though.
And that's something I feel like I should point out too with the Kaleidescape not supporting HDR is if you're running projectors, it really doesn't matter because they don't support Dolby Vision anyway.
Yeah. Does Christie support projectors? I mean, does Christie support?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe they do, but I'm not aware of it.
Christie's are crazy high end. So you're talking 80,000 roughly for the Griffin and 450,000 for the Eclipse. So Man from Planet X says, does Kaleidescape offer movies for download for use with other home theater setups?
No, you have to be inside the Kaleidescape ecosystem.
Smig says, what are you buying with Kaleidescape? Storage isn't thousands of dollars and you still have to buy your movies, and I highly doubt their GUI isn't that expensive. So what's their deal, man? Why are they so dang expensive? Age-old question.
Convenience.
Yeah.
And it always works. And the GUI is very easy to use. Sometimes I just like staring at the home screen that we showed. What do they call that? I don't even remember what they call it.
I don't know, the menu system.
Yeah, the wall.
Okay.
The movie wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great system. Yeah, it's expensive to buy into, but once you're in it, you're in it. And the movies a lot of times are same price, if not cheaper than you can get anywhere. And I don't have to go anywhere to buy my movies.
Yeah, and we realize, I mean, Kaleidescape isn't for everybody. Just like you're looking at a Christie Griffin, you're like, why are they so dang expensive? well, I mean, that's the market. They offer something that nobody else is offering. You know, you can't get this from anybody else. So there's that as well. So
their GUI is really nice too. I'll counter on that because their GUI is probably one of the better ones I've seen.
Yep.
I think and one thing that frustrates me is if you're moving and clicking through, let's say you move over to John Wick, maybe 3, and then your eye sees another movie that you like over here,
gone.
It rearranges it and it's gone. But you can you can turn that off.
Yeah, well, you can turn that off, and there is the list that you can use. You don't have to use the wall to select things.
I know, but that's the fun part, man. It's beautiful. It's nicely organized, and it's visual.
It's playing Where's Waldo with your movies.
Yeah, it's like, oh crap, where'd that go? What was that movie called?
Oh, I had it, and then it didn't want me to have it, and it flew
like,
off.
Oh, that looks interesting, but it's gone. But like I said, in the menu system, you can turn that feature off so it doesn't shuffle and try to group action movies when you put your mouse over an action movie, or if you happen to put it over a drama, it's not going to rearrange, and now all the actions are gone, and now you're just seeing drama. So Bruce has a question. Ryan, imagine how exciting movies would be with all the blood flow in your head if you mount yourself upside down too. Buddy, what a question.
We should have that as an experience at MWave.
Whatever you do.
You guys want to do the inverted movie experience?
Inverted chairs with tactile transducers. There you go.
Oh my gosh. And the very ending tactile transducer, if we just drop you from the ceiling. Here's the best one, Gravity.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Gravity in 4D. All right. David says, we always hear about splitting a sub signal with a Y splitter to add more subs. What about splitting a regular channel like a front, left, right to add height channels and enlarge the front sound stage? So basically to duplicate your front. Wouldn't you run into combing issues? Or like combing?
Yeah, and delay issues because you would have longer distances and shorter distances and it wouldn't combine well.
So not ideal.
I think you can do it. It's just a lot of work if you wanted to actually get it to work. And even then, you may run into problems.
It's going to sound muddy.
Yeah. Now, movie theaters kind of, well.
No, they can set individual delays even if there was like less channels.
Oh, if we're splitting the signal.
He's splitting the signal from like left or signal from right.
In order to get that to work, you would have to set individual delays per channel.
Yeah, you'd want like a mini DSP or something.
Yeah.
So, or a Trenov or something.
Well, yeah, just ability to delay the signal so it hits you at the right time.
Yeah.
Or to duplicate a channel and then be able to.
If he's talking about splitting Y splitter, you're not getting a trend off in that conversation. Does this 99-cent Y splitter work right for this?
Yeah, he's just trying to make a bigger like space, and I think if you got the right system, you're going to have a big space. You know,
now I have a buddy that swears by doing kind of what you're talking about, splitting the signal for left to right into 2 speakers and having them just side by side, 2 identical speakers. He's got big PA speakers, and he said it made a big difference. He appreciated it, and I think that probably what it's doing is probably just adding a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb that kind of makes that sound more pleasing to him.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that if you want to experiment with that and try it. But if you put them too far away, it's gonna sound muddy.
Okay. John Gonzalez says, what do you think of the Klipsch Synergy Black Label speakers? So I've owned and heard a bunch of Klipsch. I've owned probably over 50 pair of Klipsch. I'm not super fond of the Synergy series. That's typically what people, especially people that don't like Klipsch, most of the time, I'm like, oh, just curious, what models have you heard? They're like, oh, it's the ones at Best Buy on the end caps. I'm like, I hang my head because they're like, okay, you're basing your entire opinion off of a brand on their cheapest entry level speaker. And their cabinets aren't, I mean, let's face it, their cabinets aren't very nice. There's a reason why they're $400 a pair kind of thing. So I like the Reference Premier series. And I definitely like the RF7 series, RF7 2s, RF7 3s. Those are great. Even the older, what they call the Reference 4 series from, gosh, what would that be? Probably about 10-year-old speakers. Those are phenomenal. I definitely enjoy those. I'm just not a big fan of Synergy. So that's just me.
I have very little experience with Klipsch.
Is there a meaningful difference between direct servo sub like the Rhythmic F12 and a similarly sized and cheaper sealed sub like the SB 2000? I'm guessing Rhythmic's going to not walk the dog, but I've used that term twice.
You have.
I haven't personally experienced Rhythmic, but I've heard great things about them. And a lot of people say you can definitely get more performance and sometimes less money with Rhythmic, depending on what models. Have y'all heard any of the Rhythmic subs?
Yeah, I've heard several. I'd start with that 15 model.
Okay, a bigger one. Okay.
The ported 15 that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard the 12 and the sealed and the ported. And I mean, this is all going to be depending on what your expectations are and your room size and all.
Let's compare them.
But
they're on database.
I think
we'd have to use a different version. Well, the FV15 HP, the ported one's on there, and then we can compare it to the SB13 Ultra again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Rock it out, man.
Well, I'm going to look at, while you're doing that, I'm going to look at the price difference between the F12 and the...
Okay. I'll go ahead and pull up another one then. So Van Damage says, has there been any real world reviews on the RP1600 SW? So that's basically their flagship reference premier subwoofer that they just announced. That series, it's a 16-inch subwoofer, and it's really designed to compete with the PB4000 with SVS. Really curious to see how much Klipsch has improved their subwoofer line. So I don't think anybody's reviewed those yet. I don't even know if they've been sent out. And actually the 1600 hasn't even, I don't think you can even buy it just yet. They said it'd be another couple months. So it's probably not likely that anybody's going to get one, probably at least within the next couple months. So, but I haven't heard anybody that's been able to review that yet.
So
you might know it. Well, go ahead.
Your price point here is going to be like PB3000 against the FE15 HP.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that 13 Ultra is going to be, it should be pretty close.
Okay.
Did you find the database have sorry, I was answering a question in the chat. Did you find a 12-inch and the 15-inch Rhythmic database?
We're going to look at the SB13 Ultra against the FV15 HP.
So he's pulling it up.
I can do it, I guess.
Oh, you want? I thought you were.
No,
I thought he was doing it too. Yeah. Oh, that's
okay.
hilarious.
Well, whatever.
We're all looking at each other.
That's
okay.
funny.
I'm like,
Yeah. What do they want?
I think I'm doing this right. Yeah.
He's doing it right, but he's not sharing his screen yet.
I'm not
He's
sharing
not doing
it
it
yet.
right yet.
God, you guys are.
All right, Ryan, is Perlisson working on an in-ceiling Atmos speaker? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. See, easy question. Boom.
Where's output? Are we looking at max burst? Which one are we looking for, Jonathan, on
You
here?
want to go down to long-term. It should be like labeled long-term output testing or something like that.
Acoustic.
Max.
No.
I think it was at the bottom, wasn't it?
It was down a little ways.
Long term.
That's compression. So
Long term.
there you go.
Sweeps.
So
Now at the top left, type in what you want to add to it.
I
'cause
did
it's
that
supposed to be
already.
rhythmic.
It's right here.
I don't see it in your graph.
I know.
You just have one up there.
Well, rhythmic and SVS.
Oh, well, now you got to add it. So now you have rhythmic showing. Now just add SVS. Start typing SVS.
Well, now
On
I've
the
got
top left.
SVS showing. I'm not very good at this.
What in the world's
No,
happening?
type
I
in
don't know.
Because up top it's saying that's rhythmic.
Well, SVS was up here.
Yeah. So now you're looking at rhythmic. So
I
type
had them
in-
both up here, guys. Like I'm.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I don't know what's
It's
happening.
first day, give 'em
It's
a
my
break.
it's my first day using a computer. Okay.
So now we'll do SVS. There we go. And then add.
Yeah, I
Okay,
did
so
that.
now we should have both of them.
But
No, you don't. Does it got both now?
some of
No,
the
no.
charts do. This one.
Okay,
does.
you got it there. You got
Okay.
it.
This one does. Maybe it's because there's long term, but the SVS doesn't show up.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, those are all rhythmic.
See,
Maybe since there's so many different port configurations, maybe it's too many options to show up and there's some sort of code that's locking it off.
Maybe.
Because both those have
know.
like a whole lot of entries on them.
So then let's do this. Chat's probably making fun of me.
Yeah, Chirpy's getting at you right now.
I'm sure.
Good thing Ryan doesn't do anything.
Good thing I didn't try it, so I didn't look like an
Yeah.
idiot.
It's not like I used to work in the IT industry or anything. That's showing well.
Oh boy.
Burst. Where's long term? That's nice.
The audience fell asleep on us here.
Evidently.
Good job, everybody.
Just blame me. I think it's because this doesn't have it. I don't think
Wait, there's max output right there, right? Sealed mode, go down a little bit on the left-hand side.
Oh, the very bottom,
Yeah,
right above that one, right above that, right there.
Yeah.
That's burst.
Max output.
Go up one more. There's
Burst. I don't know. I think it's not showing on that graph because it doesn't have a graph for this.
Sorry about that.
I don't know. We can compare it in burst. Do you think that's a fair comparison?
Yeah, but yes, it won't be long-term sustained. So if one has a stronger amp that's just temporarily feeding that voltage to it, it'll jump it up, but that's okay. Sure, you can compare it.
Well, the rhythmic is both vents open is red. So they're similar.
All right. I'm going to swoop in here and steal your presentation.
That you should. I don't know what's happening.
Share screen.
When in doubt, don't allow Ryan to do the database comparisons.
It's okay. It's okay. But I did find it. So can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So you wanted rhythmic 15 versus SVS? I cheated. I went to sealed box. But we can try to switch it to ported here. But there's your rhythmic versus your PB or your sealed box 13 Ultra.
Okay.
Let's see if we can throw this away. And let's go to systems and let's do SVS ported box. Let's see if mine acts differently than Ryan's. So here is 20 hertz tune, and then we can add the rhythmic. I didn't see you do anything wrong, Ryan. I don't know. Maybe it's just something with the PCs.
Throw me under the bus and then make your apologies. I get it.
I'm trying to give you an escape card here.
I get it.
Long-term output sweeps. That's
Whatever.
The compression sweeps. Seal, plug, distortion. Man, we're just going to dig a hole mile deep here, aren't we? Keep on. Here we go. We got it. Here it is. Maximum long-term output sweep. So the blue line is the SVS, kind of the dark blue line.
Right.
And the rhythmic is the dashed orange line.
So, the orange. Okay.
SVS has got a hint of extra SPL around 20 hertz, say 23.4 hertz to 17 hertz. And then the rhythmic walks away a little bit up top. It has, let's look up here at like 80 hertz. It's got 113 dB versus 111 dB, so a couple dB extra.
Not much, yeah.
You're kind of trading low for high, but it's a really kind of low, a small frequency range that you got a little bit of advantage there with the SVS. Rhythmic have that servo motor and the amp that I don't know how much validity there is to it in real testing, but a lot of people swear by it because it's supposed to basically, if it starts detecting that the driver is going a little out of control, it'll rein it in. So it's really hard to make a rhythmic subwoofer overdrive or sound bad. Like the amp and the servo control that and keep it from happening.
Right.
Whereas if it's not a well-designed subwoofer, and an SVS generally is, so it isn't really a problem with an SVS comparison. But if you don't have a servo and you don't match your components, your box, your driver, your amp correctly, you can overdrive a typical subwoofer and it'll start making bad noises. So the servo is kind of a protection against that,
right?
That Rhythmic uses.
Nicely done, Jonathan.
I won't take any credit. I bet you if Ryan had scrolled up or down a little bit more, he might have found it there.
I don't think so. Just kidding, man. Just kidding. Come on now. Laugh a little bit, Ryan.
That was a smile.
That is true. That is true. So Robert Butler says...
effectively, real quick, what Jonathan is saying is if you turn on the Edge of Tomorrow introduction, the Rhythmic probably isn't going to smoke itself if it's up too high.
Right.
Robert Butler says, have Definitive Technologies 7.2.4 system, bipolar. That just sounds weird. I got bipolar speakers.
My speakers are bipolar.
BP 9060s up front and the smaller satellite surrounds. I need a new Atmos receiver. What would you recommend? Living room style setup, separates, AVR only. A lot of that's probably going to depend on your budget. Somebody even asked this in the chat, is the Marantz SR8015, is that still a good receiver? And I'm like, heck yeah, it is. It's a phenomenal receiver. And I think there's a lot of great.
If he's got if he's got 2 channels of dedicated amplification, I'm going to say Denon 3800H.
3800H be a whole lot cheaper probably than the 8015.
But then you're maxed out. I mean, there's no room for increases of channel counts.
Yeah, most people don't need more than that though. I know I don't. I don't have the room. You gotta. I guess he doesn't say how big his room is. So, yeah, there's a lot of great options, and a lot of that's going to be dependent on your budget.
You got a bunch of different options.
Yeah, reach out to Ryan directly. He can give you some options there.
We can chat about that. I may even tell you to keep what you got. I don't know.
For sure. Sassacant, thanks so much for the $5 super chat. What are you laughing at?
The comment.
Oh,
I didn't see it. I must have missed it.
No, this comment.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something else in the chat. So thanks for all your help and appreciate Ryan's attempt to use database. He rocks, man. He does his best.
Hi, guys.
Give him a hard time.
As Ryan Kramer says, it's not like I do anything technical for a living.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, we knew that, man. All right. Let's see. Simon says, what size SVS sub should I use for my 23-foot living room, 10-foot tall ceilings with an open kitchen? So
all right, guys. The easiest way to say this.
Pretty decent size.
Buy the biggest subwoofers you can afford and then buy another one later.
Down the road.
Okay. That's the proper way to do this. Do not skimp on your subs. It is probably outside of the center channel for home theater, the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most
constantly
fun.
overlooked.
Yeah.
It is very important.
I've never seen anybody buy a big subwoofer and regret it. I mean, granted, the money is like, oh man, I did spend a lot for this subwoofer, especially if it stretched your budget. But most people don't go back. What we typically hear is, man, I wish I would have went with a bigger subwoofer. I wish I would have had more power or went with 2 or something like that. So I don't think you'll regret going with the best subwoofer that you can afford in your budget. But I think you will regret. I mean, I've bought smaller subwoofers and they were cool. Prime example, my very first subwoofer was a Velodyne CT100. 10-inch.
Velodyne needs to sponsor you for how much you bring up the name Velodyne.
I mention them, but notice they aren't still in my system. So I'm not giving them any
Never
love.
mind.
This is a 20-year-old subwoofer, but it was a 10-inch subwoofer, 100 watt. And it was okay, but it was what I could afford. But man, once I went to a 15-inch Velodyne, never went back to a 10-inch. Once I went to 18-inch JTRs, I've never gone back to a 15-inch. So it's one of those things that, I don't think you'll regret going with a killer subwoofer, regardless of what brand you pick. Just find one that performs very well. Use the database to give you some real world measurements to see how it performed against other subwoofers. Look up reviews, But yeah, I'm with Ryan. Try to get a good one. Don't skimp out on that. I'd rather you save up your money, sell something in your garage that you hadn't used in 10 years, start listening to some stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Go deliver some pizzas for a month or something. Do some Uber Eats, earn some extra income. I don't know, whatever it is. But
well, not only look at database, but Gene and James Larson on Audioholics. I mean, they do phenomenal reviews on subwoofers and comparisons in the data. And James has really taken over because database really isn't updated anymore.
Yeah.
And James is now kind of the de facto reference for subwoofer measurements.
Yeah, and he takes them out. He does ground plane measurements, so he takes them out in an area that doesn't have any surroundings, so you don't get reflections. And it's definitely a lot of work. I think I don't know if he was on a live stream, but he basically said, "Man, I drove an hour and a half just to test this subwoofer." Like, holy cow! He's like, "Yeah, I had to find my place I used to go to. They kind of shut me down, so he had to find another location." So that's some dedication, man. But that's pretty awesome. Johnny E says, "Hello, Youth Man, Ryan, Jonathan. Question for Ryan. Didn't I hear you say a couple weeks ago that here it is. Yeah, we started there. You redid your theater. If so, when are you going to redo a video so we can check out your updated room?" So he's asking another Youth Man reviews. Home theater tour.
We're going to make Michael work again. It's not that the room's been it's been changed quite a bit.
You've made some considerable upgrades.
I mean, I don't have the white box of terror as my projector anymore. Couple guys coming in. Guys, we can fix this. We can't fix this.
No,
leaving defeated. I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm up to
Mad
30
VR.
channels.
Did you have Mad VR when I was there?
Mad VR was not in there.
Didn't have the same projector.
Did you have
the same subs.
We've been through like 3 different projectors.
Speakers.
Subs are all different.
Did you have Storm?
Seating's back to the same. That's about the only thing.
Seating is back to the same.
Yeah, I think you had Storm at that time.
I've added 1, 2, 3. There's 5 more speakers in the room.
New amplifiers.
2 more subs. The near field's new. All of
a different screen.
A lot more
different
treatments.
Screen. A lot. The treatments weren't there.
A suspension projector mount.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Right.
Okay, there's a lot of changes.
Black paint on the speaker wire. Thank goodness.
And heat shrink to get rid of. Yes.
And the speakers no longer you hit your head on.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Jonathan got to experience that, and it was funny. Oh, I froze.
See that?
It was funny watching him.
Yeah, snap that.
Oh, dang!
I'll put it back up there. I'll give it back to you.
That's the thumbnail.
That is for sure. For all videos going forward.
That's awesome.
At least I can laugh at myself. I don't know why my OBS does that. But it was funny watching Jonathan because he's so used to having to duck in my theater that he was still ducking in my
theater. Habit. I'm gonna have a back problem. Just I don't all the times I hit my head on your speakers.
You don't hit your head unless you're like 6'6" and above. You got a problem. I'm like half an inch.
Well, I do know that we've got a ton of not extra, but there's still a lot of home theaters that we didn't tour in Kansas City. So I know that we could definitely schedule another one sometime down the road and be able to do Ryan's in that mix as well. It might be hard to do it during M-Wave just because there's just so much going on. I'm going to come up a couple days early. I'll be there a couple days after, but whether or not we're going to be able to, because it takes a long time to film that, honestly. So we might be able to do something kind of quick. I don't know. We'll see. So
yeah, you remember how long the last one took in my room?
That was different, and we even tried a different style. I'd do it totally different. We're not going to sit there with your legs gapped open, so everybody can comment on your Joel situation. the comments in that video are stinking hilarious, man. So stinking hilarious.
Oh man,
oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we can do it differently.
Pavel, appreciate the $10 super chat. NZ8 with a Panamorph, Lumigen, Envy, or the NZ9, and he's got a 140-inch wide scope screen. What would you recommend there? So lower, and I think we had some options to see this in person at M-Wave. Lower end projector with a Panamorph and an Envy or a Lumigen, or just go with an NZ9 without a Panamorph and without a video processor.
You could argue either way on this one.
I think there's probably pros and cons of both scenarios. I mean, something like Envy's going to give you like the nonlinear stretch.
My first thought is going to be NZ8 Panamorph in the Envy and Lumigen.
That's a lot more money, though, right?
No. All those things?
That's a lot. That's what he says. He says NZ8 with a Panamorph.
You can get an Envy Pro, a Panamorph, and an NZ8 for about the same price as an NZ9.
Okay. So you're thinking get all three of those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because you're going to get about a 20% light gain from the Panamorph.
Sure. So that'll put probably brightness comparable.
Mm-hmm. The Envy is going to give you barrel distortion compensation for the Panamorph. It's going to give you black bar and aspect ratio management, HDR, tone mapping adjustments, motion. And well, if you do the Pro, it doesn't get motion interpolation.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a ton of extras that are, you don't have to deal with lens. Well, the Panamorph, you don't have to deal with lens shifting. But that would be my suggestion. Because I think you're almost going to be getting the light output of the NZ9 with the Panamorph. You're not going to have to deal with lens shift.
Test it at M-Wave. Make it happen.
Now I got to get
add that to your list.
I got to get a lens.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan.
Well, that'd be a great test. There's a lot of questions just like that, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of answered that a little bit.
I don't even know the answer, really.
We put the LS12, the Envy on the LS12000 against the NZ8. We saw that what happened there.
The Epson did really well.
Yeah,
with the Envy. But the question I have though is, and you've already spoke this a little bit. That lens is going to help bring some of that brightness back. But you're But that NZ9 is not just like a slight difference in brightness. It's a pretty big jump in brightness off the
600 to 700 lumens, because I think a lot of them are hitting over their rated lumens.
So that makes it a little tougher because, over the course of time, the laser will dim and you still have extra headroom with the NZ9. I'm not discounting what you're saying. That Envy does a great product and would make that NZ8 shine. That's a tough call. Got to shoot it out.
All right. I'll ask Sean. I'll send something to Panamorph.
Yikes.
It's a good suggestion.
Sure.
I mean,
good question.
So if you want to see it happen, you guys got to make the trip.
Twist Ryan's arm.
You got to join us out here.
Yeah.
July 14th through the 16th. All the details on the website.
Jonathan's paying for this comparison.
Yeah, man. I love it. Great question there, Johnny. Travis says, how long is the wait time for JTR subs currently? So
3 to 4 months.
I don't really know where they're at in their process. You think 3 to 4 months? Oh, because you just ordered one. That's months. Right. That's true.
I ordered 3.
Yeah. So what did you order?
Having to go like this. What did I?
What'd you order, man?
I'm turning into Scott Newby.
Yeah.
I've got. I ordered 3 more 4000s.
Golly. So you'll have 5 JTR Captivator 4000 ULFs.
One of the 4000s is going to be near field.
Oh my god. Jeez. All right. So we're basically going to have to buy a defibrillator for Wave.
No, you don't need a defibrillator. You just bring people into my room and we can restart them.
Hey, I want to call this out a little bit because the last time I was over at your house this last week before John Wick 4, what happened to us? Your wife came downstairs and said what? With 2
Turn it down.
Yeah, the base.
No, it wasn't 2 4000s. There are 4 RS1s in the back and then a second or a 5th RS1 in near field. So it's not like I'm just adding more that doesn't exist already. I mean, I'm replacing.
Right.
Jeff is taking back the RTJ sub 18s.
Okay.
And then so the 4000s, because one of the problems I had with them is mixing the sealed and the ported subs was a nightmare. I got it to work.
Yeah. But we've told people that on the show.
It was
that it's difficult.
You can do it, but it took forever to do. It took forever. So that was one of the reasons. And then the 4000 couch version just fits so nicely underneath that table. I just kind of, it had to happen. I mean, it's
Oh boy.
and then there was all these questions of should you do sealed near field or ported, and I was just like, F it, I'm just gonna make everything sealed and
Everything
ported.
You ordered the wrong thing.
I ordered the wrong things.
No.
So it's fine.
Oh boy.
3 more coming, but the wait is 3 to 4 months, probably because of me.
No. Crazy. Carl says, hey guys, I'm considering new subs and wondering, would a pair of Perlison D215s versus a pair of larger JTR be a consideration in your mind? Not sure whether to go for all out for displacement or not.
So the D215s are like, as far as what James has done on his review, one of the best measuring subs for distortion on the market. Like it's supposed to be phenomenal, like whatever the measurements are. And he even says this in the review that this thing is insane. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I've never done a head-to-head comparison, so I would just be speaking to subjectivity here. I think they're both phenomenal.
Yeah. Jared says, have 4 JTR subs. He's got 2 Captivator 4000 ULFs, 2 Captivator 1400s. Basically, would a mini DSP 2x4 HD be the one to get to dial those in together?
That's a good
Yes.
option.
Dubno Bay says, what do you guys recommend for 4 in-ceiling Atmos speakers under $1,000 total? My suggestion is always get the same brand that you've got. So if you got Martin Logan's, go with some Martin Logan's.
Dubno Bass, if you're here still, what speakers do you have now? What I'm going to recommend for price options, Martin Logan has a ton of different options in several different price points. So if you need something.
You think he has Martin Logan or that?
No, I'm just saying if he doesn't want a timber match, I'm just throwing something out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
he says DIY sound group. So 1099s.
I mean, what would you do, Jonathan?
I would keep in that same family. They have 899s. Can you put 899s on the ceiling, or are they too big? You did say in ceiling, and that wouldn't be in ceiling.
No,
but it would be.
I
same
think maybe
family.
that's what he's trying to do is make it clean up top.
You know, the people that design those speakers are accessible. I think they even provide their email through that do-it-yourself sound group. If you ask for it, you just ask the author who created that speaker.
Yeah.
You know,
Like what are they kind
creator,
of sound signatures?
what he would
similar?
recommend. Absolutely.
For timber matching.
Makes sense.
Yeah. He might have a little coaxial style speaker that would be kind of just a single driver. You could build a box and put it in your ceiling.
Yeah, he said he's got HTM 10s for surrounds. He says his concern is the height.
No, then you got to do HTM 10s. That's my opinion. Keep it with the same if you can.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'll
you're
help.
already in that do-it-yourself space.
I mean, if you're moving away from timber matching, the heights are definitely the ones to do it on because they're not going to be utilized as much. But in my opinion, just like what Jonathan said, you want to try and get the same Jonathan, I'm just falling off a cliff right now after database. It's just like, I can't do anything. I'm forgetting how to speak.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
So wait a minute. They have and I'm not super familiar with the do-it-yourself sound group. I have heard some of these, but I don't know if I've heard these particular ones. They have different models in that line. So if you got, I've got the site pulled up here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. Present.
We're going to let Jonathan do all the presenting from now on because we know that I cannot do it.
He's the man.
No, I'm about to blotch it up right now. Share screen.
No,
entire screen. Here we go. Share.
No, it won't.
So this what we're talking about? I mean, that's what came up when I did a search. Did he say HT10? This?
I thought so.
HTM 10S.
Oh, HTM.
What is that?
I don't know. HTM-10S.
It's a mythical speaker.
Former model, maybe? He's still on there talking, right? Let's get.
But it should. I mean, the HD10 should be close enough.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, I don't know, man. They could be a completely different designer, completely different crossover.
Just let me say things that don't make sense, Jonathan.
Well,
okay?
we gotta.
I've already fallen so far off the bandwagon, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Let's get some clarification from this gentleman. What's he actually got? Because I'm not finding what he said he got.
I'm actually going to search, just Google and see. Okay, so there is a HTM-10 speaker
He
build.
says it's the HT10.
All right, well then they got smaller ones here. Can you put any of these on your ceiling?
Yeah, but
Like
a smaller do-it-yourself sound group is still not small.
Yeah, true.
But and I wouldn't do a 6 personally, because that doesn't usually have. You could look at the specs. These are high profile. I mean, these are probably high efficiency drivers. They might have enough to reference, but generally speaking, as just a generic rule, 6-inch doesn't have enough to go reference as a single. So you might look at 8, because 8 generally does. If you can figure out how to redesign this cabinet, you might get some input from the group there. You could make this narrower, but you got your tweeter.
There's not much difference there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And if you're changing the cabinet, you're going to change the frequency response. And
if your joists are 16 inches apart and you got 12 inches up there of depth, you might still be able to fit this in there. And then you could go with either of those.
Is there a reason why you can't use wall mounts?
Heck, cut the drywall out of the ceiling and stick it between your rafters. Why couldn't you do that?
Have it exposed on the floor above.
You won't be able to angle them.
Have the back of the speaker protruding into your kitchen.
So one comment, maybe use the
Infinite
DIY
baffle ceiling speakers.
The Volt 8s as height and build an angle cabinet around it, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. These guys at the Do-It-Yourself Sound Group, they have threads on AVS for them, and they're all engaged. You could probably get someone to custom design you a cabinet with a CNC machine, pay a little extra, get the back cabinet.
What's their dispersion?
Yeah, so he's worried. He's worried about having your previous setup, Ryan.
Mounted on its side.
Somebody's going to hit it.
Don't mount them vertically. Turn them on their side. If the dispersion's like 90-90.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. I mean,
I know this guy. He'd be a good guy just to reach out to. He's on AVS Forum too. MTG 90 or something like that, I think. He'd just tell you straight up.
Hmm.
And you can get some
doesn't even tell you the
mounts.
Waveguides right here anyway. The throw.
But I mean, it's a horn.
Well, this is the waveguide. So we could look that up and see if it tells us the dispersion.
Dispersion.
Here
Looks
it
wide,
is.
then it is high. So I wonder.
Somebody's got to tell us this. Come on now. Getting close.
It'll probably link some other model.
Here we go. 90 by 50.
Okay, so you'll lose some.
Yeah, but if it's one row,
you want to rotate it so that the 90 was facing forward to back in the theater, so you had more dispersion for your seats if you're going to use that waveguide, and then keep them in narrow so the 50 still covers your seats. Or switch up the waveguide. There's nothing to say you have to use this waveguide. You could switch it to a wider waveguide.
Yeah, but 50 degrees still may work. I mean, just depends on his seating positions and what's going on with that.
Yeah. Reach out to Matt Grant. That guy's good. I've talked to him several times and met him in person. Reach out to him on AVS Forum and ask him a question. He'll give you a straight answer. He designed the dang thing, so he's a great person to ask. I'm a MTG 90. Oh, look at that. It's like a infinity mirror. Stop sharing.
Yeah, it usually does. So Asia Me says, I have a shallow center below the scene. I'm thinking screen. Due to having a UST, wanted to get a larger ported center, but would have to make a bracket and place a portion of the box in the wall due to size. Any cons? Well, if the port is in the rear of that center, that wouldn't work. If it's front ported on the center, you could mount it part of that box in the wall.
You could theoretically mount the center above the screen, as long as the center is angled towards your ears.
That's gonna be that's a high.
Depends on how his screen's set up. I don't know.
Yeah, could.
You could contact your speaker manufacturer and see if they would allow you to, or say that they could make accommodation for you to plug your port and then just apply a nice crossover a little higher than normal.
Yeah,
if it's rear.
You may be able to fix some things with EQ if you plug it.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
the USTs, the ultra short throw projectors, man, they're just
Something else to
present some
consider
challenges for
if
sure.
you're running, if you're like the only one that usually watches things, you may want to try and do Phantom Center.
Nope.
I don't like those. Yeah,
If you're the only one that watches,
I know, but I still think you get a better imaging.
I'm trying to give him multiple options here. Okay, I'm trying to give him everything.
We're trying to give him multiple opinions.
Well, your guys' opinion doesn't matter.
I love it. So
I just verified MTG 90 for the previous question. The Matt Grant. Send him a PM on ABS Forum.
Okay. Eric says, do you have a minimum recommendation on a TV or projector display size or quality to justify Kaleidescape investment? That's a great question. That's interesting. I've never thought about that. And again, this is going to be super subjective. You know, I mean, I think you could have an 80-inch or whatever the highest 65 OLED is. Yeah, you know, you have a beautiful picture sitting pretty close to that. I think the value of Kaleidescape isn't the size of the screen. I think you're getting a beautiful image. You're getting the convenience factor of being able to just have access to massive library. So yeah, I don't know if the size of the screen would really justify. Now, does it look cool having that big old wall of videos? And I think it does on a big screen, but I don't necessarily think you have to have a projector to enjoy Kaleidescape. I think if it fits within your budget and it offers the features that you want, go for it. Rocksteady says, I would like to use bookshelf speakers for Atmos. Is it better to mount on the sidewall at the ceilings or just mount them on the ceiling, hanging down at an angle?
Depends on the room.
Oh yeah.
How wide the room is, positioning is going to be the biggest thing with that. I would just say follow the Adobe spec.
Because it's going to be based on the angles. Stephen Vanderpool says, will Kaleidescape support HDR10 Plus on existing hardware?
No.
I think he mentioned that earlier, didn't he?
He said HDMI 2.0 and HDMI 3.0, which doesn't make sense. But what did he mean? Do you know?
So, as far as I understand it, the new HDR specs are not going to be supported on existing hardware.
Okay.
So 2.1 is not going to be supported on. And that's totally sensible. It makes sense. Everyone has to do that.
That's just what I've heard so far. So that may change. Just
Salim says, why Kaleidescape services not available outside the US? So he actually addressed that at the beginning of the show. Pretty much the biggest thing is it's just regulated by the studios. And so to get those licensed in different areas outside the US, that's the struggle. It's not Kaleidescape saying, hey, we're only going to do it here. So that was kind of
it is available in a few countries. It's available in the next question, actually. It's available in Canada, and I think it's available in the UK.
So just
man, it'd be pretty cool if they could get those day one movie deliveries. He said they did it a few during COVID.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. And I've like Top Gun, even if it's not necessarily day one. I mean, Top Gun, I got 3 months before it hit disc. That was super nice.
Yeah, because day one, I guess it'd be a challenge. I don't think they would want to do day one releases.
Yeah, but
they have all the copyright features.
If it was more, it wouldn't matter. I'd pay for some of these movies. Have like a movie watch night. I'd pay $100, if not more, if people would chip in and help. Because I'd much rather watch it in somebody's dedicated theater than at a commercial theater.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
you'd have to. They'd upcharge, and I would support that because you're paying for the ability to watch it as soon as it's in theater. You have to compensate for the studio losing out on theater revenue or box office revenue. And
that's my thought behind it. I don't know if they're willing to do that.
Listen to Ryan here. I would pay $100 if all my friends would come over and chip in for my theater made for one person.
Narcissistic. I would actually.
We will rotate.
Yeah, I would actually do it by myself. Like
Oh
my
my
family
gosh.
would come in and they don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the only one that really cares in my family in the narcissistic theater.
No, I heard you say something like that when we went to John Wick, and I agree. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes sense. People enthusiasts that are friends and have been friends for years and stuff, we'd gladly do that.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to do that.
That would be cool. Just in somebody else's theater room, like Jonathan's.
Well, Ryan's got to bring his K-scape.
Just bring it over. Hey, they said if you got a place, you can bring it. Go.
Yeah.
It works. It's stored on the.
Well, hey, so and this is another ignorance thing for me because I don't know Kscape that much, but isn't that part of the reason they have that device and so forth is they wanted to lock down that with the copyright protection mechanisms, right? HTTP and all those types of things. What are that? Is there? Maybe the piracy guys have figured out how to do it, but there isn't going to necessarily be a right way to grab that off there. I mean, it's not like those files are encrypted. You can't just go in and get them. I guess if you stream them through some sort of computer card, a capture card or something, maybe you could pick them off.
They may be able to get around that by like delays and all kinds of other things like avoiding man in the middle.
Yeah, I don't see somebody buying Kaleidescape and then going through the trouble of trying to rip Kaleidescape.
Oh, but wait, if they were coming out on day one, those Pirate Bay people would be all over that if they could figure out a way.
Wow. All right. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the stream tonight. That was awesome.
That was Jonathan's fault, not mine.
Yeah, I don't even pirate movies, so
that's good. I'm glad.
I don't even do anything illegal. I'm just talking about it.
Encouraging other people to try to figure it out.
I know a couple things about this kind of stuff. Doesn't mean I have to do it.
One more question. It's about Kaleidescape.
Yeah, and we addressed that at the earlier show. Hey guys, love the show. Appreciate it, man. So is there a disparity between Kaleidescape and 4K Blu-ray in terms of video and audio quality?
So I really did appreciate how Andre said this.
Yeah.
And he said that it's really only telling on the longer movies when you're running out of storage on the disc. I did appreciate the honesty and the transparency there.
Yeah. So we showed this at the beginning. Let me move your comment out of the way. So he just shows that. Oh my goodness!
Put it back, you loser.
Got too many hands in the pie. There we go. All right. So he basically showed us this chart that shows, the video throughput. So the file size of a Kaleidescape file versus a Blu-ray 4K down on that bottom graph. Now streaming, of course, is just way, way, way different. The streaming platforms are much, much smaller file size. But the audio, I thought that was interesting because, I mean, honestly, we've always heard, we get this is the marketing verbiage from Kaleidescape. We get the mezzanine file, and but I like how Andre explained.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
the difference. It's like, okay, we get, the full size, and if it's a longer movie, you just physically can't fit that fully, let's just call it uncompressed for the most part, lossless onto that disc. If it's a 3-hour movie, so John Wick 4 is right at 3 hours. So if it comes out on 4K disc, they're going to have to compress that some to get it to fit. So that makes sense. And then if you've got other things like movie extras behind the scenes, now that's more data that's got to fit on that disc, and that disc can only hold so much. Versus with Kaleidescape, they don't have that that cap, so that makes sense.
There's a whole lot of wink and nod comments type in the comments here right now.
What's that wink and nod?
About the piracy stuff, just the wink and nod type comments.
Yeah. We'll try to.
Look what Jonathan has done.
Steer clear of this before we get taken.
I know a guy that knows the guy that doesn't know a guy that isn't connected with the other guy,
whose name is Michael,
but can get you in touch with a guy. I think.
And that was a joke,
for sure. Yeah, I'm the one that has the Plex server that doesn't work real good because I'm using an old NVIDIA Shield because my Plex server is the Shield. And I think that's the bottom.
We all have problems with them. Like I had an issue with my Plex of it for whatever reason wouldn't play
Mm-hmm.
a certain movie until I played a different movie, and then it loaded correctly, and then there were all those problems with the NVIDIA Shield update and Plex all those months ago, then caused things to not work. And yeah, I mean, I meant it when I said it earlier. Kaleidescape just works. It's one of the things you pay for is ease of access and not having to worry about anything.
Kaleidescape, if you're watching this 2.5 hour stream, if you want to hook a brother up, Youth Man of Volunteers tribute. So,
volunteers tribute. I will graciously endure the painful experience of dealing with a Kaleidescape.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll even make some videos for you. How about that?
There you go.
Well, cool, man. We're at 2.5 hours. We've answered all the questions.
Jonathan made it the whole time.
Video has.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he'll get a text here in a little bit.
He probably already has.
Final question without spoilers.
Yeah.
You John Wick 4. You said you were.
We've
how
all
do you
seen
rate
it.
it compared to the other three?
Yeah. So to me, no spoilers on John Wick 4. The action is crazy. I mean, it's over the top. What kind of pulled me out of the movie was it was so unrealistic. And there's one part again, I don't want to spoil it. I don't know if it's really even a spoiler because you see it in the trailers, but he basically was invincible.
Yes.
And there's so many bullets flying at him. I mean, just everybody. And think about this. Okay. His head is not covered. You get shot in the head, you're dead.
And they're professional assassins. It's not like he's just fighting like street thugs. They're all underworld professional assassins.
Yeah.
They Fast and Furioused it, man. That's my
But
that's
maybe
my
all of the professional assassins suck except John Wick.
Maybe.
He is.
Yeah, because he's the one shot.
He is the
bam,
boogeyman.
bam, bam, bam,
You
bam.
remember that old like 1980s movie Commando with Schwarzenegger where there's like the entire Mexican army fighting him in his backyard at that mansion or whatever it was?
Yep.
And like they're all shooting him and they're all missing and he's like throwing saw blades at them and killing them.
Yeah.
It's felt like that to me.
Yeah. And that's
like, what is
that's the thing.
happening?
So I think
is
that was
happening
that was the part that kind of took me. I was like, I mean, there's a lot of gun. I mean, of course, all John Wicks are like that, but this was over the top, like start to finish, man. It's very little story. Let's just shoot.
In the first movie too, like the combat was believable to someone who doesn't have combat experience. Like to me, that looked really cool. It was like one-on-one fighting. This one, there's like 6 or 8 guys that are trying to gang up on him, but they're all kind of like taking little weird turns, and it doesn't even make sense. You know, they're doing nunchuck stuff, swinging around, and it's like it's all flair. It's I don't know. It lost me somewhere.
And just the fact of how long. I mean, you know, one thing that Keanu Reeves does really well is these single takes. They're not chopped up. They're not, okay, let's work on this 3-second action move and then let's cut to a different camera angle. Let's work on this one. It's like, dude, you'll have a 5-minute sequence, an action sequence of him fighting and flipping and body slamming and shooting and knifing and whatever else he's got. But then you're thinking, dude, I would be so gassed at about 10 seconds.
Sure.
You know, and this dude is just going strong. And so that, I guess,
got hit by like 20 cars too, you know.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Ruin
That's a spoiler. That's a spoiler. Can't say that. Yeah, there's some very unrealistic. I'm thinking of one in particular. You're like, oh, thank goodness there's a car below him.
Jonathan, we can't spoil.
How is that a spoiler?
Disney movie Cars is in the same universe as John Wick.
Okay, and then the one last thing, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but there's a villain in the movie that's almost like watching Dick Tracy, and it seems like really, really out of form for John Wick to me. I mean, it's almost like comedy relief. I don't know what they were doing. Like, is it the same people that made this movie? That's what I'm asking.
Is it the one dude behind the desk?
Yeah, you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. But I was like, is this even the same series? What happened here?
Yeah. That was different. Yeah. But like I mentioned earlier, there was one scene, and I think they did it twice, and it was so different for the franchise.
No,
I'm not gonna say it because when I saw it, I'm like, dude, that's cool. that is so different. And
It was super cool.
The fact that it was, this long sequence made it
Super
even
cool.
cooler. I'll share backstage, Jonathan, what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
We
about.
all know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It is
I liked it.
demo material.
Yeah, I
There
really
are so
liked that.
many demo material scenes in this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely worthy of that. So
the movie was beautifully made, and it was beautifully shot.
Yeah.
It was very worth going to see.
Yeah.
It's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
It was
as far as the story, though, that's what I mean. It's like
I don't know that
there's certain parts that just pull me out of it. But again, I like Fast and Furious, and there ain't a thing of that's believable. The man's like launching off a cliff, and it's tied to a rope, and he's swinging around,
driving a tank. How did we go from racing cars to driving tanks?
I was out of that series when they started jumping the cars off skyscrapers and driving safes around with SUVs that weighed 4 times as much as the car. And I was like, I'm not watching any more of these.
But they did skid across the thing. I mean, it was pulling the truck.
That's stupid. There's no way to describe it other than stupid.
Yeah. So we just know when we go to the movies, when we watch these things, sometimes we just have to disassociate from reality. And that's what entertainment is. I mean, it's not always meant to be a replication of reality. It's a chance for us to, and I guess that's part of why we enjoy movies. I mean, think about it. We all have lives that are stressful at times. We have stuff that we're dealing with family, friends, sometimes health issues. And sometimes it's just nice to kind of escape that, to watch a movie, to watch a film, whether it's comedy, whether it's action, whether it's drama, whatever your kind of genre that you're into, martial arts. So, but that's part of the fun and the beauty of 100 bullet magazine and a handgun. He did reload.
Well, and they kind of spoke to that what he have 32 rounds or something in his pistol. They said it was specially designed. I don't know where the bullets go, but it's supposed to have 32 rounds in it.
Yeah, it did have a long magazine though.
Oh,
so you figure, I mean,
I was probably looking at my phone.
Yeah, you could fit 15 rounds that way because they're stacked sideways, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe that part. Yeah, but anyway, go see it. I think it's definitely.
I would still recommend seeing it if you're a fan of the
100%.
series, but just
100%.
It's a little different.
Fast and
I enjoyed it.
Wheelchairs. Oh gosh, Gimpy. So, well, cool, man. We're at 2 hours, 41 minutes. So we'll wrap up here. We've answered all your questions. Hope you guys enjoy this. If you're wanting to do some really, really fun stuff with us, man, we have an event coming up July the 14th through the 16th called M-Wave. You can check out all the details. We've got a fun weekend planned for you. We're going to have probably about 4 or 5 different full Dolby Atmos theaters, basically. JTR, we've got SVS, probably 2 rooms per listen. They're going to have full systems there. And then Martin Logan. So definitely going to have some really, really cool systems for you to hear and really just focus on the home theater side. We'll have some 2-channel, we'll listen to some music, but most of these other trade shows and AV shows focus on the 2-channel side of it. So we're trying to provide something that's really unique, really different in the space. And then we're also going to have some really cool side-by-side comparisons, like projector comparisons, so that you can see an NZ7.
Now, evidently, I have to do an NZA with a Panamorph and an NV against an NZ9.
Yeah, something like that. We'll have.
You guys are terrible influences.
I'm not. Dude, I don't want to put any more work on you.
Notice how he's not saying no, don't do it.
No, I have warned Ryan against doing stuff. I'm like, are you sure you want to add this to your plate? Because I know what work it takes to get this and make it happen. But we're excited for it. It's gonna be super, super cool. We're in a new venue this year, which is really exciting. So we're at the Kansas City Convention Center. That really opens up a lot for us because the space, being able to have multiple rooms going at the same time. So we're not kind of locked down to a schedule. You'll have a lot more flexibility to be able to just go see the rooms that you want to see and spend whatever amount of time you need to spend in those rooms, talking to those brands, hearing those. I've had many of you reach out to me and you're like, man, I'm really glad that such and such brand is going to be there because I just want to spend some time to see if that's a good fit for my home theater. And that's really some of the purpose behind M-Wave. So Pavel, appreciate you, buddy. He says, nice show, Youth Man. You've got a quality format with 3 guys that know their stuff. And yes, let's do the NZ8 with goodies versus the NZ9 shootout.
Well, he was the one that got this whole question started.
I
So,
know
Pavel,
it. I know it.
I
Yep.
strongly dislike you.
Yeah. Yeah. You just added to his workflow.
I'll make it happen. I got to reach out to Sean at Panamorph and see if we can get it
so
going.
Pavel, let me know in the chat. Are you coming to M-Wave? You can't like make a suggestion and not come, bro.
And Pavel, now you got to reach out to me so we can talk projectors.
Oh, there you go.
You got me doing this at M-Wave. Now you got to reach out and we can talk projectors and see.
That's right, man. He'll hook you up.
Taken care of.
Hook you up. So, well, cool, guys. I hope y'all had a great week, and we'll just keep cranking out some content for you. Hope to see you at M-Wave. And he said if it's happening, he said he'll go. I'm gonna put it on the screen just so we got proof of it right here.
Dude,
Boom.
it's happening. What do you mean if it's happening, dude? It's
if
happening.
You can make it happen.
No, it'll happen.
There we go. Now we got him and you together.
No, it's happening.
It's happening. Pavel, we'd love to have you, man.
It's happening.
It is happening.
Yes, it's happening.
Awesome, man. Well, guys, y'all have a great week. We'll catch you in the next stream.
See you guys later.